Ta ngaranso tawa dan gomba dan cheba shetravari chopa midam mitun paras ransa sonwa chatang yin seta chopa midam mitun bas le jidin vi chowa tamje denjin dan chenjin dan injin gi jingjo tatare da dan nyen dan o tinde tatare ta tanda yagini shebigi je tamje de tini nyon pa tamje randul dutani nyomon ba sheda ngar gyal chado tamje ramal dutang gi tinde indi kala jidin gi chopa da thungi mare ti indi kala chopa midam mitun paras tungu mar nanjur ngaransu pyogi keja chigla kabli doto do mende nanjur mitun sengi tere pechyor ti indi kapali singa do mi kabli dokal jana khotsan degi mar ko drill tor ti indi kala nanjur wa choba yago chigin jigding mi tungu mare mitun sen chukba yago keja ta mare te donan jigding gi chawa dang choy de opposite chade yores te tin disende chopa midam mitun para rangsa sungwa chadang yin se on jigdingi chawa chicho ke datul nyen jong tang de jig mare te tin de kala nyen pun tang jigdingi dolog da politiki dolog tang tensu tang tunni michewa indu kala ti tungi mitin de rangsa songwa sa zokpa chimbo khorang ge chopa kang ina ta gi chopa de la ngandi gi midang ngoshe bata uta dulgi de parang tro ta uta ya tene namto pemen me kangdong dong go ba shu ga ta u ji cheon de kala ti choba sum de chegende tini zoba chimbo nanjuru begi ransa sungsananda ta nanjuru ba khorang ge choba tres tila chatang yinsa chatang sini chawatang wa ngaranso tini chachi lesum yorwa ta pena kangda kayina ya chachi lesum ge pena tari gi sing cheba na cha che cheba po osum yor tini chawa kang che na ya tini pharo yul chen tini sin che da nyen 모든서 탐제라더니 자체 료숨기 코rsum기 나버 똑바데 요르데 때인데 간다 난저로 야부지기 있나데 자체 료숨다 따라 원니게 되네 다들 자체 료숨다 따라들 냥저로 수수부잖아요 빼미되어 야주에 강사나 코rsum 나버 똑바 간테니 시치 디버드 남선나라서 남도 간테니 녀몽 디버드스다 근데 다음에 앞에서 흉도 차도래 한테 다 먹고 라마라미도 띠인지 간난도 dorna 오야테네 셴바 탐제단 잘되게디 난저르비기 줘봐 오야다 디 돈당 거네시나 자방 그래서
We covered the view, meditation and conduct. We discussed those. And then we had discussed these last two lines that read, to not modify your behavior for others but hold your ground is to be a renunciant. So to not modify your behavior for others, this means the conduct of a practitioner of the great perfection is not in accord with the conduct or actions of worldly beings, worldly or ordinary mundane beings whose actions and thoughts, everything is bound up in grasping and fixation, dualistic fixation, fixation on true existence, fixation on characteristics. A practitioner has released or liberated all afflictions and all thoughts. That being the case, their outlook, their conduct is not in accord with ordinary mundane people. This isn't to say that practitioners, that yogis fight or that they argue or fight with ordinary people. It's simply that because they have released or liberated their attachment and so on, they don't have the same concerns, the same outlook as ordinary people. They're not involved in subduing enemies, in nurturing friends, in politics and other conventional behavior. So a practitioner of the great perfection, they hold their ground. So hold your ground here means to engage in the conduct of the great perfection, which means these three types of conduct that I mentioned earlier. So first of all, recognizing thoughts and recognizing and liberating thoughts like meeting an acquaintance, then naturally liberating thoughts like a snake untying its own body, and then fourth, beyond benefit and harm, like a robber entering an empty house. These are the three types of conduct of a great perfection practitioner. If you hold your ground in this way, then you are a renunciant, or you have released. You have you've renounced action, so to speak. When we talk about action, we're talking about action that involves an object, subject and action. So these three conceptual spheres of subject, object, and action. A good practitioner, a genuine practitioner, has transcended these three conceptual spheres. So, in short, being free of attachment, being free of all attachment is the conduct of the great perfection, and that is to be a renunciant.
Yeah, that day jela kansong do sana, kandang tutet mebaro, chipur neba richoyin sondo. Tandi kansong gore se panjo, zoba chimbo tawa dang, gomba chopa dang, dendiwe, nanjor te, tene nguni ge kandang tutet mebayi se, ta dra nyen tamje dang dral degen. Oh ya, te chipur neba richoyin se, ta mashi te richoy segen te, pemigi za chimbore, ngun gyalwa goma tamje ge, gyagar tupchen gyaju yanji je, pyoge tene, yerbi tupchen gyaju jibang ishu zanga tam je de mang chewa da gyaja dawajina gyaja gubju le manga yingira tam je de richo le dene tene dhuba thuba kagyare dhucho richo kanche so phunum sobe nengi to tawdu dhuba chebar sho ka ishi so gelge molam nang te sondo wa tene dhucho tang richo to tacho sumla zone dhuba thubne tene dhuba chine dhuba thuba tatare ma do ta chongba tang sanga singi nangla de degenge zoba chimbu ki dhubu thubki te pe mi ki kumbure ta gyalo inda bodhi dawo kashi dawo dang yana ta tinda lor yushin kashi tinda yor ma dong mang chewa de ya tene karba tuchu kanche so la tene nyamlen che ne zoba chimbu ke tawa dang gomba tsu ta nyamlen che sa de richer rang re te tin de kan la gang dang tuchit me ba yi sa ta cham min se ge de na dang so cham so ji ngoma de ina tuchu so na ji go cham de ya bo de da dang so cham so la ina internet se ge de dang ji de WeChat second phone second desa ritual de chik sanga singe de gyasa komoda chikwa yodege phabro to ya choga tana re pe cheshu na re tene mobile ta tene keja she tene de cho tang ge na la keja she nyamba tang ge la keja she nga zo to ji sa sa da sho ha sala chewa nga dung ho re ta tire dung de ta tinde she na choga de na bar ma ta kerang zo mani tang ge bazar guru tang ge mobile ta ge keja she tadi chochigni 지금 알아서라 답 되우서 되게 chochig라 최라 버지지고 디 모빌 세긴들 두고 줘서 말해 때 딘도 간 다 딘도 너다 지세라서나 다 딘나신 쟁아서 리트를 되는데 지부르 네바르 리트 있는서다 라치고 미수다야한테는 두셔매 봐 미수다야 드라와매 봐 되는 저바침보다 좀 조심라 내기디 리트 봐야한테 봐땡 라바 땅안서 딘저로 지게 리트를 돼 맞춤나야 튼르레 땅에 내가서나 저가 레 땅와서이나 라마 잡아서이나 민도 결혼선 지대서이나 민도 대수단수이네 이제 폰드 모바일 업체 딘저 마지 보기는 깨져시기 시기는 로기다 추슈기 저다 카카오기 말다 나라나시야 캐나바담제 다비디 나자든데 인도 다비디 나자서는 짐바 먹고 땅고도 되는 칼레카보르와 때 가시냐 로침부터 되는 인기를 막도 추슈디 강 땅본 고쪽네 죽 마스터 버트 사치직라 대거래 때 라버도 추슈위 내가 수직 많이 당겐데 오당 창하게도 많이 거긴데 지기요 말에 때 인데 강 추년비기 꿈 땅가라서 년바당 년비기 출스긴 지요래 추년바당 년비기 출스긴 나왔다 지금 거라 샤며 그 발라서 봤다 야 되는 강바가 하며고 왔더니 이제 개발을 지단 촌라서 보면다가 고라 샤며 그 봤다 다든데 되는 추슈위 내값소 아다든데 군상라 메샬론을 개침부 송샤요 딘디 간다 파버도야 다 딘저 되다 나서 추슈위 개자시 모빌 나라당 되다 다 디미세지 참라 되나야 딘데다 탐지다 되는 데스기 참되저 점불링 탐질 태도시 점불링 탐질라 주도시 되되는 거라서 딘데되래 되게자시겐데 초바소도 강나에 폰데 게자야고 당가랑서 라만나니지는가 왕도 슈사 먹고 송이 된다 텔라차 사지라 다 드링데 지지 룽직티가 lep송다 아서겐데 단다 자슈도다 다가지는 단다 군제 풀기도 아버다 딘데탐지 당데데 본조케 딘데 지기 최슈겐게 최슈겐 저거 용사민도 와 딘데다 켄나발 슈기진에서나 튼다 땅도 강다 모바일 스위스도 업체샤 딘데 지기 촉바당 조도 강라에 딘데 지도게나 다르 추치디가 링골 드마툼다야티네 니마치거징 알아서 튼당조디 다 샤부도 지용도 하오레 딘데 다 돈다디 강서서나 harang sem di chi chuchiwe naldu papgo yore sem naldu papra chewala tene chi phon tangken de kaja sheken de yargyu margyu tangken de tinde chena sem naldu papgo mare sem naldu mafemna te gom yago yong mare te indi kan gom yago yo sem nal papgo ra ta rishu de do na tene chi sanga singa ara uri me du kan la te pe me ge yago yong tan de lurgyu sheken chonju na la samden liu na la chin namdole chin dunzile omba na semki namdole omba so omba na ba ni song do te inde kan chin dunzile omba san sanga sing do sa megen namdole omba se de kan la namdong damen de ge sa me de gen tindela tini ni de go ta tila samden liu dole de dona sikti ni gi tenen derware chin namdole omba chin dunzile omba na namdole omba se ta ti omba ni de go yo ta tinde sende 강당 투트 메바로 치프르 네바 리초인 센터 치 둔지고 원바디 고거래 때 티토라 남도 원바디 고거래 티디오 강사나 최제 자위 참제네 제 춘인강네 참바인서 다친 둔질 원바 남도로 원바 남도로 원바디 강라서나 최제는 지된 최제 녜데 자도 녜바당 대와 자바당 떠바 지드바 민년바다 마녜바당 민년바당 오야 티네 테도 데 민드바지 더바지다 민드바지 드런 지된 최제 세거래 단 지된 최제데 방warche gormadan jigdin choki de mabang bardo chewa namda jigdan oya tene gom namda jonda yo mare tindi kalandro gandang tude mebaru jipur nepal retrain se ludinzil ba de shewore choki jawi samjene choyingang ne sambai se namda le omba asa ta de omba na ba ni de dugo yore songre
To not keep company with others but live in solitude is a mountain hermitage. So to practice the view, meditation and conduct of the great perfection, ideally one should go and live in solitude in a mountain hermitage or a solitary place. A place where one does not keep company with others, where one is not in the company of other people. If we think of all the accomplished practitioners who have filled Tibet, appeared in Tibet in centuries past, 90% or more than 90% of those practitioners did their practice in solitude, in hermitages, in a retreat setting, and gained accomplishment in those settings. So whether it be a mountain hermitage or a cave or a forest or what have you, they practiced in retreat settings in solitude without company of others. So this just illustrates the importance of practicing in solitude. It's very, very rare to be able to gain accomplishment and progress in the Dharma when practicing in society. There are the very few exceptions, like King Indrabodhi, but they are truly exceptions. 90% or more of practitioners they practice in retreat, and that's where they gain their accomplishment. So just as Yeshe made those fervent aspirations that one may always be able to practice in retreat in solitary places. These days, even if people do go on retreat, then one problem is that we have smartphones and we have internet, and people you continue using their phones and internet, WeChat and what have you, even when they're supposedly in retreat. Or, for instance, look at a lot of lamas and monastics in puja doing rituals. They bring their phones into the puja, and they're actually looking at their phones at the same time as doing puja. Or, for instance, people doing their practice sessions and recitation. At the same time, they're looking at their phone and busy with their phone. This, if we let our phones and internet and so on intrude on our practice, whether it be retreat or puja or just a session, our practice is not going to be genuine. It's not possible to practice authentically when you're fiddling around with your phone. You might think that, on the one hand, just smartphones are so convenient, they make things so convenient and easy for us. But if you really think about practicing the Dharma from that perspective, they are really an obstacle. So in order to practice the view, meditation and conduct of the great perfection, we need to stay alone away from the company of others in a retreat setting. That to live in solitude in this way is what's meant by a mountain hermitage. And again, that's what we need to do. Even if we're unable to do that, to go off to a retreat setting, still we will engage in daily practice sessions, right? So we should be sure to not let our phone intrude on those sessions. Turn your phone off, keep your phone away from you during your sessions, and then those sessions can be meaningful. The same goes also for when listening to Dharma teachings. So you shouldn't be fiddling with your phone, looking at your phone during teachings. It's also important to sit still and not move about, not get up during teaching sessions. Of course, some people need to, for instance, if you have diabetes or if you're old, then often you need to get up to go to the toilet more frequently, and there's not much to be done about that. But otherwise, one really, from the beginning to end of a Dharma session, one should just sit down and sit still. One should not be getting up and moving around. Likewise, one shouldn't be spinning money wheels, prayer wheels, or reciting mantras and using a mala during a teaching session. One should just be sitting still, focused on the teaching. Similarly, it's taught that one should observe, for instance, not wear one's shoes, not wear a hat, not wear a sword, and so on around one's belt. This is what's taught in the scriptures. This is how one should behave when listening to the Dharma. These and other points are taught in detail in the words of my perfect teacher. These days, mobile phones are really intruding on Dharma practice and Dharma study. People are looking at their phones, like I've said, during teaching sessions, even in retreat. When they're supposedly in retreat, they're using their phones. And even in empowerments, last year or recently, I was at some sort of group empowerments, and so many lamas were using their phones in the empowerments, just busying themselves meaninglessly with their phones, like sending messages. Oh, now they're bringing the substances around. Oh, now they're serving tea. Oh, now they served us this cake. Like, it's just, this is not the conduct of a practitioner. So, especially, like I said, and I'll say again, when doing your daily sessions, be sure to put your phone aside. Just leave your phone aside for the duration of your practice. Then your practice can have some effect. This is all to say that in order to practice the Dharma, in order to be able to practice the Dharma, our mind needs to be at rest, in a state of natural rest. And if we're constantly looking at our phone and busying ourselves with that, our mind will not be in natural rest, and it will not be at ease, and we will not be able to meditate. In the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, the chapter on meditation talks about two different types of solitude. External solitude, which means removing yourself from hustle and bustle, and internal solitude, which is removing yourself from thoughts, conceptual thoughts, these two types of solitude. So the first, these two lines we just covered, to not keep company with others but live in solitude, is a mountain hermitage. That is instructing us to embrace external solitude. And then we have the next two lines: to draw a boundary against the 8 worldly concerns and remain in the intrinsic nature is retreat. This is instructing us in inner solitude. The inner solitude, so drawing a boundary, demarcating a boundary against the 8 worldly concerns, which are made up of 4 things that we hope for and 4 things that we fear. So, 4 hopes and 4 fears: praise, gain, happiness, and 4 in total, and then the opposite of those, so criticism, loss, and so on. To draw a boundary against these 8 worldly concerns and instead remain in the intrinsic nature, that is retreat, or inner retreat, inner solitude.
Tangaranzo gom yakbo kewar chewala te tagisegin shin chege something liu na so na shin chege lu dunzil on wa ta sem nam dolo on bas ta tingi di chawayina Tini Dzogpa Chimpo Gomina, Yaku Yongore, Dzogpa Chimpo Gom Maina, Yangaranzo Kangan, Tumongi Gom Gitine, Shershin Gomnanda, Uma Gomnanda, Uma Gatongi Gomnanda, Timaim Vichanshu, Sem Gombe Inanda, Tachere Zigdan, Tini Gurun Buchilasopi, Gomde Kanda Kancheba Inayang, Tini Muni Gitine, Yaku Yongore Mato, Tini Desa Dia Sanga Singina, Tini Tina Shingi. Sem dia tini chuki na asona chi gyusa gyuto tam gyukerangi bo kanse nyepata devata chapata tinzula samlo mango je karne deshana tini liu chi chöchi de gende wo je zozo de gende wo lakwa changa khur de gende wo je tonda ho de tini chi chö nang gyap gal de gende wo de cha de wo tin du kan la tang aran so tham chi ki tini chöchi bi ge tsu ti mangyu la ma de ba ta chi chudo chi chi tu go na de chudo chaga chi tu ti de number ta wo je sha ina yang di tsuki chigi yang rang la jinlab tang, di tsuki chigi ngoni ki ndiwu dhubu chi mingi ten ten yuwa re. Ten ndiwu kaan la tang nga zo chigi tuzu ku mangpo chi yinsa ka chigi chak chi sal na yang nabar takwa me, chume chi pon na yang nabar takwa me, tay kora yab na yang nabar takwa me, chigi kora yab tegi na samtu di miting kurin ta ta ten, ta dam san tokla chaa du, shen di bodha zul song kya, kecha tam chi bodha na lakwa changa ke kora yab da, kecha ku song kecha ta ta shen di do tegi tira mang chi tira duwa. 가시니 아직 가로 난게 깨졌더라시니 깨져 남요 당사자 오진 거라 겸도 되긴들 또 쇼지 강요 쇼지가 말하면 때 지금 많이 맞을 그리 당하나래 지금 차살나 거라 겸 넘바 되는데 깨져 딱딱게 드레스는 저 팬토 말 되는데 강라 구른 부지 송도 로직 되네 그냥 대체 제발에 인직 맞지 지나가 송래 가당나 배마 가당나 로직 냠바 장결 니마지 카숨 냠바 장지 니마지 기딩에 냠바 장결도 개와체 송 디딩 아치 지기도 빼게 저버래 하버도 양데 튼당 왜내 값은 아치 지기도 개체고 시버래 딘데 맞지 왜내 거 로직 냠바 장 거봐 쉽게 셔기 되네 거 위자 땅게 땅게 이메일 로그 드리지니네 로직이 그런 두바체발레 샤포직데 카숨 되네 이 뜻이도 되네 냠바탄 트레진티 개와체 니랍겨 말은 구름부존티 구름부지로 동타식도 이경만 송조래 데인데 강라 로직 뭐지세 대죄 제바데스 대죄스는 간동 개별스레 오야 민직 맞지 지나 가 송래 맞지 지나 개와데 니로예요 송 다티나 이 쫀주 나한테는 뭐 송셔래 다틴데 망고 롱장되는 가서 저저 상가마래 데인데 강라 탐제게 되네 최도 당대야 저랍존나 지 리처도 저도 때때 마존나 쇼바 오 미말랑만 하나 gonda 미냐살네 근데 계직 두주 상직 지서 상하성에 매바 가리게 뉴가 부게 상하성에 매바 진짜 찍라 되네 저저 찍이나 민도 저저 차가이나 민도 근데 찍라 랑게 냠lên 봉투바이나 되네 대처게 되네 적바침부게 냠lên 야고 용거래 적바침부게 냠lên 마이나야다 쟤네 세그레 많이 된겨 쟤네스 곰겨래 바자르 그룹 장기는 그룹 부진 곰 땅땅해 되네 많이 되나야 쟤네스 곰고여래 바자르 그룹 장나는 그룹 부진 곰고여래 곰 세겐테 셈체지도 내기들 곰세래 대신다 곰세 신다 저거 말해 대인들가 차살와이나야 되네 그룹 부지게 연된다 상기 좀 된데게 연된서 셈라 되네 딜러랑게 되네 저기 쳐봐 불고요 셀류기 쳐봐 차살기 류기 쳐봐 불고요 삼바체 뭐야데 되네 인디가 안다나 류급이 넘기르게 쳐봐라 차살기도 꼬라 자겨서 야데 대인들 따뜻하게 먹으시는 먹으러 단 도치 있는 만나야 된소 탐지 샘디 세직라 거르데 샘영과이 저안에 두메바 투비송이네 적송요 알아서 전주나라 샘영과 거네 쳐봐 볼란다 차 감된제난다 지잖아요 펜바시오 말 대인들가 샘제지도 내기데 개천보래 대인들 저바 침보 검자줄라야 되네디 직된 최견매바다 되네 지게 리처라서 봐 된데란 도트바이나 강 만제게 되네 야보래 된데 마존나야 지금은 이게 남도대 숙성부 매바직당 아야 되네 지단계 류기야 지금 둔지 신부매게 된데 지금 곰지 약에 있는 따따이게 돼 저바침부 따와도 거 버쳐봐서 대 야보용 그랬어
So in order to practice meditation, in order for our meditation practice to be successful, we need to embrace these two types of solitude, inner solitude and outer solitude. And then if we embrace these two types of solitude, then our practice of our meditation, our great perfection meditation, can be successful. Of course, the same applies for whatever meditation or practice we're doing, whether it be meditating on the Prajna Paramita or the middle way, on bodhicitta or on a deity like Avalokiteshvara or Guru Rinpoche, visualizing and chanting the mantras of those deities. Whatever the practice is, if we do it with these two types of solitude, inner solitude free of mundane concerns and the outer solitude, outer physical solitude, then the practice can be genuine and effective. Otherwise, just like I've said, if we mix our practice with all sorts of busyness and other preoccupations with mundane concerns, like the 8 worldly concerns of longing for praise and happiness, fame and gain, then even though we might physically be sitting and seemingly doing practice, doing Dharma, it's in actual fact we are our back is turned against the Dharma, so to speak, by doing the opposite of Dharma. So that being the case, whether we sit down and practice for an hour or 30 minutes or another period of time, we should be sure to do it properly and genuinely. And then whether it be an hour, whether it be 30 minutes or more or less, that period of practice will bring about a genuine result, a benefit. Otherwise, if we mix our practice, whether it be making prostrations or offerings or doing kora, circumambulations, whatever it is, if we mix that with mundane concerns and with talk and chatter, for instance, in Nepal, in the Bodhana Stupa, so many people do kora there all the time, but most or a lot of people do kora while just chatting with their friends about mundane stuff, very worldly things, business and so on, or family matters. And then really no benefit is coming from that. Chanting mantras while interrupting your mantras with worldly mundane talk, that just not like annuls all, any possible benefit. Guru Rinpoche himself said in Pema Katang, one chronicle of his life story, he said, better than a year of recitation is 1 day of silence. So better than a year of recitation that is done with a distracted mind or interrupted with like worldly speech or mundane concerns, more beneficial is just a single day of silence. This isn't my word, these aren't my words, these are the words of Guru Rinpoche himself, spoken more than 1,000 years ago. So otherwise, if we sit down to practice, but we mix our practice with looking at our WeChat account or reading emails and so on, no real benefit is going to come from that. Better to just be silent for a day. So, like I've said, if we can go and practice in actual solitude in a retreat setting, that's the best. But even if we can't, then we can make an effort to practice on a daily basis, get up early in the morning and before it's too noisy outside with cars and traffic and stuff, before the children are up and making lots of noise. We can make some time to sit down and practice, whether it be an hour or 30 minutes, and sit and train in the great perfection, meditate on the great perfection. Or it might be practicing Avalokiteshvara and chanting the Mani mantra or chanting the Vajraguru mantra while meditating on Guru Rinpoche, or for instance recollecting Buddha Shakyamuni. All of these are types of meditation, right? Types of training. After all, essentially meditation means a one-pointed state of mind, and whether we be training in the great perfection or chanting the Mani mantra or Vajraguru mantra, so visualizing the Guru Rinpoche or Avalokiteshvara, supplicating them, recording their qualities and so on. Whichever practice we're engaged in, we need to do so with a one-pointed state of mind. And that therefore is meditation. So again, if instead we mix our practice with distraction, then it's not going to be genuine beneficial practice. So to sum up, in order to practice the great perfection, we should embrace external solitude of a retreat setting and the internal solitude of freeing ourselves from the 8 worldly concerns, and then our practice stands a chance of success. Even if we're not able to practice to that degree, we should reduce our busyness, reduce our distraction and preoccupations, and practice in sessions, and then our view, meditation, and conduct to the great perfection can be beneficial, can come about.
Oh yeah, tini 단데 춘잉강네 참바인스라 다 최게 됐다네 남남도래 원바치네 춘잉강네 참바인스 참양다바데 데 춘잉강네서 춘이세 리파스레 리파데 춘이레 오야데니 리빙강 네디교테 된 참양다바데 송레 다티인디 레 당보바지게 되네 나라서 네 리처트 오지라 송 지된 최게게 딱바다 용서 저거 방투고 말에 나랑도 소소케we 인디 강란 지된 쪽에 빵사기 참르보시아나 사탕부랍도 가위네 값수 빵투 그래서 미화는 뭐 손도와 미화는 뭐 지금 알아서 센터 까다까이 나라가 동유도비 제레에서 동유도비 제라랑 든도 쪽에 고년 바 신den도 닝지 쯤에도 길라 차와서 다사탕부 내가 연된 들어줘라 그래 야때 랑든도 쪽에 고년 바선 지된 쪽에 녜데 자도 시디면데 바 민예바다 민예바다 마토바다 야때네 지스레 Jidi mende badang, jidi ndoba asa. Ta tidi go nyom kite satangu rabdu gawa lewe nekapsu, oya ti tine pang tubu gore mato ke, tine ngalang soso kewo na ti pang tubu mara, ina ngon ne ngor, jikden choki te ngalang so, lamno shuk sewe jine jikden choki te katsu mara ngon ne ne, ya ngor burme ju chikyo ti ngalang so ke ti lenghen de wajere. Ta ti chewe ke tine gyunsen tiki ti ngalang sarsana, rangdun to choki tine pang wadang. 신든도 닝체 쯤미 귤라 차르바세 따디 조바 쳔보당 알아서 우마 쳔보당 돈다 찍바레 강르스 반주 우마 쳔보고 동이기 따와 귤레케나 닝제데 샤롱 그래 조바 쳔보 검나도 닝제 디냥 샤롱 그래 닝제 데 마샤르비 조바 쳔보 자와니는 온다 비요 말에 어야 테티 인디 강라티니 알아서 따와 양 따바지 귤레케와다 곰체 겨우어다 곰 작응에서 로첩 주장 곰 잡난다 로직 잡난다 다와직 잡난다 따자는 다와 가족이 니마 가족이 곰지 개위 곰기 지금 뉴바도 톤 맞춘데 따규데 랑라 직된 초기라 정말 셴바충도 누구도 민도 따거래 직된 초기에서 이때 작대 때바다 민이 동안 민이 매바다는 민도 반 직된 초기 제수 줘서가라서 직된 초기데 되래 뒤인도 강라 직된 초기게 자와 탐지라 예바다 작바다 또바다 이때 작대 예바다 다 장칼리칼 잡마서 저건 되잖아요 Nepal hanga gunurlong che ta song ina re chigne chig pe Nepal hanga thomna nye na gawo nye de se subu de usem ki bu na gawo nye re nye de trak se keta che wo famous inji ke je na da famous jong na gawo ro mi de pe mi keta ngi ton la da mi da chi go ro ta nye de tra de se mi pe ya pore la de ti la gana sha ta ko ya pore ko khewa re ko shu pore ko jem pore ko zeo re ko ke nyem pore ko do sang pore la na gana chi gro ba o ya ti shi ti do ju ti to ba shi tre nye de tra de 어제 만잇 동안 미년바 만잇 때는 랑 교만 송노 경도 원도 다시 내가 쇼도 근도 때는 중간에 동을 기어버려 만잇 동을 미년바 때는 만잇 빠지게 만잇 동을 때는 셈라 동을 류라다 류데다 류기 동을다 셈기 동을 니요래 티 강롱도 중교 때는 야 이때 저도 되거든 미년도 동을 minyen dangse, minyen basa kecha duja, dangsa kecha kokumare, ko chakpare, ko marabare, ko chambare, ko chikja sokpare, ko chikja nyombare, ko chik dukjare sikyutin duwa, o ya tila minyen basa, ti kecha kola nga zo pesem na dungal kien, ti kakawa mara jikten basa ki tiriwa, ta nga zo tasang gom jakyo ti meba sokin se warta, miki karila na chik tiki chik semla, nanchirwa gom jakyo, nanchirwa chik, yakputa dukjiga khebar chiga meki, pena dotub jina buchi na shing, Dudjom Rinpoche tinderwa pe Lama gomba thongbo nani shini nga le machi Thailand la doi Thailand la doi kangla tene Dudjom Rinpoche jal song Dudjom Rinpoche jal doi kangla dergi kempo sakin chware dergi kempo khong te pheb do tene dergi kempo khong la gemi gi sangyum ji do tangyum di ming la chungjung ina jikse te ti la te ki nga zo ke Dudjom Rinpoche tokpa thombo re se kho ke ja ma ti ngi lab yo mar khui lab yo re tene mo Dudjom Rinpoche tokpa thombo ba kan re ha ko re se mo mal tisu dinde kongi mingla kansor chinle karo kongi girme lundu girme sabde o kong te kongi tilab tenga ti pe kya de nyambo shio sharso de ngaran sem ti tender ku tilab ne tene Dudjom Rinpoche ki tokpa thombo kan re ha ko re se Dudjom Rinpoche tokpa thombo shio re mi thamji tokpa thombo kan re ha ko re tene kogi labson Dudjom Rinpoche le kheron tene dollar boom chik durchosa kalpulni kyoga poshona Rinpoche ki didejiga ski mares ya te tokpa thule tene jires te ngoni ku keja dewara ngoni 난주로 뒤서 ser다 봉원이 강사라 링시 럽답단 기기데 대 투순나 왜 최소나 공부 용수적으로 자셔서 라마 똑같은 부디 간 상기 좀 된데기 되기 캠보 규미 틀리게 랍죠 마임바 좀 된데기 뒤송샤 그래 빼나 라마 똑같은 ser도도지다 도도도니 캐퍼 찍으면 사도래 오 뒤차고 있는 거 수티네 똑같이 들리비기 되네 문이기 되네 되래 ser다 봉와선 ser스는 ser로 봉와선은 사르바 사도르바 ser다 봉원이 강사라 링시 럽답니 지기데 대 투순나 왜 최소나 공부 용수 때문에 되게 캠퍼스가 문이 똑같이 되나 ser다 봉원이 되게 그 약불을 람다 독자를 캐버지가 메되게 조르나 만조르나야 캐버 가게 메게 톱나야 마톱나 캐버 가게 메되게 나랑서 밑에 삼로 땅땅 벳 오브지를 되게 나저도 톱나 가게 마톰 두그르와 오야 딘데 메되게 틸라마 똑같은 그 세샤다 띠들기 캠퍼스 성격도 벳 덴바레 나빼 가서 아오 오늘에 거기 빼 샤기도 감마다 약부샤도 어디서게나 지도 나저 딘데 말아 톱나 가 마톰나 두 떠나가 맨나도 어디스네 딘디시고래 녜데 딱도 데바탄스 미니 동알 미님바스 미니 스데카나타 마랑라 규만저로 바탄 총 로스 중도 드레치난테 동알 미니바 미님바스네 미기 독자레스 빼 독자테나 람나 노그르바 테 도르르바젤 독자 실라나 노그 민도 와테 나 따디나 로기 먹고 셰기래 치 랍샤나 치치 콘 랍 말디 트라바 돌 랍데게나 신지마 도마 나니시네 인지 미지는 도르르바지 근데서 도르르바젤 빼 샤도 먹고 쉬랬어 rinpoche shabdo monggo shio song se labni oya songdukse tukji sheje ma songdo ten chilo le doru rinpoche so no feelings ko doru rinpoche le pesha mo shabji mo shio rinpoche ki khata nange do tukji ganzo de nan go tu ndaba jaru la chega chigro ta kam de yin kyo karin jo doru rinpoche oya songdukse te chilo doru rinpoche so no feelings ta inji ke je ki ta nga inji she mar da rinpoche le feeling mi do te bangoni 안저 롯티가 저런 부지 군들로 롯 줍창 먹고 롯숨주서랑 쳐셔서 너를 부지 꼴리지 하 먹어 디닝지 인지디가 하고도 저런 부지 원이 그 똑같은 북한데 뭐지 하고 너를 부지 높이로 원이 그 처럼 밑에 그러지 고 라마 똑같은 부스인데 서로다 봉원이다 똑같다 밑에 버튼 지금 되게 딜라마처럼 가서 라마 찍이 말해 가서 라마 고데오 참바 하오 가서 샤도를 제가 믹스 잡아 재미다 디레레 첸바탄 딘디 지금 저는 가능식으로 봐 딘디 직딩기 자와랑 타대 버저래 돼요 딘디 가와 라 녜데 저거다 미니 동알 미년바 메빠타네 직딩 쪽이죠 메빠스 미기 두자를 람나 넣죠 디시디 빵되어래 오야 녜데 자도 시도 디 똥이 마토비기 다 견래 나도 직딩 쪽이데 용규디 똥반이기 똥데 또 저거 신부 늘루도 또서 봐서 직딩 쪽이 탐지데 잘 돌아 천시 쇼스나 도르는 거지 나신 오야 다 딘저지래 다 단단가서 딘저 천시 샤게 라마다 녀사미도 다 당사 깔리까 버래 오야 다 갈디 치 샤고 왕당에나 다 켜서디 망치 탐지 도르는 거지 제 용조 하자 인기래 오야 라마가 투고 공부데 딘다요 어다 데인데 간라 대대위기 때문에 다 저버친 분들로 약보에나 랑든도 최게 봉와 다 최게 봉되게 문이기 직된 최게라 짠이랑 것들라 동남 메게지 라마 용그래 다킨도 제레나 라마 약보 잘고나 직된 최게 메게 라마지 잘고요 신든도 닝주 쫄비두기라 샤바서 신든은 닝지 체원 닝지딩아 닝제 세겐데 오트는 마임바 쌤 나는 닝지 원이 게쌤 닝지랑 신게 통네 오야 되는 라바르도 되는 가라서 샘진 문에 감숨 걸어라 캠등에 샘진 담절 닝지 매번 미니 치모던 류바부 요알아서 바랑신차가 이 균생 강가차라서나 대들 마도 샘진라 닝징인 랍두기 생하나 송도 오야 대들 마도 샘진라 조바 침부기 니루 마도 바다 동반이기 돈 하마고 출바 하마 샘진 출바데 출바 하마고는 때 미들 정 무주 세주 답주 망고디 강래 무부 뎀버 투여스니 무고어봐 무부 기버 투여스 티토 저고여봐 딘디가 대들 무부가 라신 동반이 임바 하마고 오야 최탐제 때 밀름도 주마자메 임바 하마고 샘진 소라 하티네 하마고네 때 링엠 바사네 때니 지 둥알 망고 지긴 소라 띵문에 난저 박티네 그러 조바 침부 난저 속에 쌤 등니 인지게 걸라 쌤 아카카 샤차 삼기도 지더니 인지게 양아래 대들 마도 쌤진라 인지인 랍도게 세 조바 침부 늘루 양다고 또 되게 아 나와디 티나신게 때 신든라 인지 띠안 거봐 주마 마인 빙지 게래 송래 너야 때때 인도가라 란덴도 직된 최게 탐지 양고념도 그래 송 야딜로 다 띄어내 도스라 비도야 티쇼
So we should draw a boundary against the 8 worldly concerns and remain in the intrinsic nature, which is meaning dharmata, the intrinsic nature or reality. This is retreat. So therefore, we're being instructed to stay in retreat, stay in solitude, and to guard ourselves or to abandon the 8 worldly concerns. The 8 worldly concerns are, first of all, hoping for or wishing for gain, for happiness, for fame, and for praise. And then the opposite of these, so not wishing for or fearing loss, suffering, bad reputation, and criticism. To draw a boundary against the 8 worldly concerns and remain in the intrinsic nature is retreat. We need to abandon and relinquish these 8 worldly concerns, but that said, we're not able to do that straight away. These will only be truly abandoned and uprooted when we attain the first bhumi and become a noble bodhisattva. At that point, all self-interest, through the strength of realization, all self-interest is completely abandoned and uprooted. Until we reach that point, though, we can and we must work on reducing and eroding these mundane concerns, these mundane worldly concerns that are rooted in self-interest. That is what we need to do. That's our obligation as practitioners. So as practitioners, it's said that for our own benefit, we relinquish the 8 worldly concerns, and for the benefit of others, we give rise to effortless compassion. Or rather, this is the case for genuine practitioners who've realized the natural state of the great perfection, or who've realized profound emptiness as taught in the middle way. It's taught in the middle way that when one realizes the view of emptiness, then naturally a natural compassion sort of wells, springs forth. This is even more the case with the practice of the great perfection. When a practitioner realizes the natural state of the great perfection, an overwhelming, uncontrived compassion for all sentient beings springs forth, just from, spontaneously in the mind. So, like I said, we cannot just relinquish these 8 worldly concerns straight away, but we need to work on reducing and eroding them. So as we practice, whether we set out to and practice in a retreat setting for many years, or whether we just practice on a daily basis or what have you, whatever the case may be, we need to regularly check in with ourselves and see whether the 8 worldly concerns are actually reducing or not. Is my longing for gain, for happiness, for fame and praise decreasing or not? Is my fear of loss, suffering, bad reputation and criticism decreasing or not? The four, from among the 8 worldly concerns, we have 4 hopes and 4 fears, right? So the first of the 4 hopes, hoping for gain, refers to like hoping to gain wealth or possessions or status. Then we have the hope for happiness, meaning physical and mental happiness. Hoping for good reputation or even fame, and renown. And then hoping for praise, that people will praise us and tell us how excellent we are and this and that way and so on and so forth. Then we have the opposite of those, the 4 fears. So fearing loss, loss of wealth, of possessions, fear of suffering in both body and mind, the fear of bad reputation. So of people talking about us, saying that we're, criticizing us, saying that we're, a lousy person or what have you. And then fear of criticism. As a practitioner, a meditator, we need to reach the point where we're totally indifferent to other people's opinions and other people's words. Whatever people say about us, we're just totally unmoved. An example of this is, true example of this is the late Dudjom Rinpoche. In the past, when Dudjom Rinpoche was staying in Thailand for a while, I went to visit him and spend some time. And there was a Khenpo from Derge there. This Khenpo had his consort, his wife was Chinese, and she had asked Khenpo You know, everyone says Dudjom Rinpoche is so highly realized, but how do you actually know that? Like, what's the proof? And I really loved his answer. He said, she said, you know, he has this reputation for being so highly realized, but how can you really tell? And he said, well, the proof is in this. If you were to get $100,000 like of banknotes and place it right in front of, give it to Dudjom Rinpoche and just put it on the table right in front of him, he wouldn't even look at it. I loved that answer. I thought that just really summed it up. And that really was true. Dudjom Rinpoche was just like that. He was totally unmoved by gain, by praise, just completely free of these 8 mundane concerns that for us, they just like dominate our mind, our outlook, right? Dominate our mindset. But Dudjom Rinpoche was just totally beyond them. Buddha Shakyamuni himself said that an enlightened being, a realized being, for them, there is no difference between earth and gold, or like an ordinary stone and gold. Just no difference whatsoever. There are so many other stories I could tell you to illustrate Dudjom Rinpoche's freedom from these 8 worldly concerns. We don't really have time though, so I won't go into those. Just to mention one more. One time there was a Western student who was a student of Dudjom Rinpoche, and they had done quite a lot of work, so to speak, or offered a lot of service to Dudjom Rinpoche, and been working quite hard. And when they went, one time they sort of updated Dudjom Rinpoche, you know, on everything they'd done, you know, I've done this and that and finished this and that. And Dudjom Rinpoche's response was, oh yeah, like just, you know, usually when we've done something, we want some acknowledgement, right? Or to be told that we've done a good job, or, you know, some response. But his response was just, fine, like he's just indifferent. And apparently this student came out of the room and just exclaimed, Dudjom Rinpoche, he has no feelings. And I thought, wow, you know, when I heard this, I thought, you know, this student, I thought I've spent like 30 or more years with, you know, I've known Dudjom Rinpoche for 30 or more years. But this student, just with that comment, she just captured his qualities. He has no feelings. That is a sign of, his quality as a practitioner or a realized practitioner of the great perfection. He's totally transcended all mundane concerns, all concerns with praise, criticism, gain, loss, and so on. It makes no difference to him whatsoever. So that's the kind of teacher he was. Nevertheless, it's rare to come across a teacher like that. And also, often we don't really want to come across teachers like that, or we don't really hold them in high regard, because we prefer teachers who kind of flatter us and praise us and, you know, respond to us in different ways, right? Often we actually want like an emotional response. Anyway, to be so enmeshed in the 8 worldly concerns and these hopes and fears, that is a symptom of or a fault of failing to realize emptiness, failing to realize the natural state, the great perfection. Failure of recognition results in being caught up in these 8 worldly concerns. So, as I said, a practitioner who has realized the great perfection, someone like Dudjom Rinpoche, the result of that is that for their own benefit, they transcend the 8 worldly concerns, and for the benefit of others, they experience or they show a natural and spontaneous compassion for all sentient beings. All sentient beings who are wandering in samsara, enmeshed in suffering because of their mistaken attachment to reality, a reality that does not exist, their failure to realize the great perfection, emptiness, the natural state, failure to understand that all appearances are just like dreams and illusions, and instead thinking that appearances truly exist, falling into fixation and then accumulating negative karma, which ripens as suffering, and in this way spiraling through samsara. The practitioner of the great perfection, when they see this, overwhelming compassion wells forth from within their heart, uncontrived compassion.
Oya, tindi kala ta ngaranso gomji gyaba ina, ta gomde tanda gom gyagju gare, ta kashe gom gyabcha yoto. Tindi kala ta gom gyagju re, tindi kala ta gomdi gyabne, gomdi ngune yakbuji chakadu chakamindu, ta gyudi tirang re. Kare sena gomdi chak chekchakuro, ta yakbu chungdu mindu, chala re ina, yakbu redu mindu, ngoma redu, zuma redu. Oya, tini kari ina, ko tata du mindu, tata chakuro mato, tata maje wana tidi chala ina ya, zuma tini redu na. Ya tene ne lamkal ndoge ina takta sacha te lep du midu tagi tagi dorma titi sacha kolok tanda lep dogurwa tina shinchege tene zogba chibu gomba ina gomdi yakpa chung du midu tagi te tanda sage na shinchege semjin la nyingje kikyo nyingje de chomin ki nyingje nga to choma ki nyingje mang chewa chikta rangi putuk la tsewa yo tegen to rangi sazang la tsewa yo tegen ta di tsewa pen thoki tsewa shivu maare kangarasana di tsewa di 책보다 셴비기 제와들이 디인디가 책보다 셴비기 제와디 제바디 양다고 제와지 말해 질 제와다 레데 어야디 컨텐데 나라당이 가슴 깨지고 아스트레일리아 아티 계속이 시길 기미디 약보 킬을 전부 쉬우 지기도 할래 앞에 전부 키 짝바탐지 아바 아무가 짝바다 치고지 말다 키 짝바탐지 치 킬라 카자 담바 자 키냠는 냐를 지기도 와 지길 소탐지 앞에 약보래거니 내리는 킬을 약보 지기도 가면도 약보랬어 러비 인샤를 제대인데 야 가게 강서도는 딱 키디 빼 짜승부 요랬어 강 짜승부 요랬으나 딱 키디 당부 빼 lonely스 따랑 지구 강발 대도 키디 로바고 그래서 키디 로바 전에 키잘 되는 템파스 약보 작 빼야고 지그랬어 되게 바르갑지는 키디 게 되게 로 쭉쭉제 키디 게 되네 지금 고미셔도 제가 하마 투미들 상도 되네 뇽난 게냐 키리뇨 딱 키기 잡았지만 그게 지금 가난도 되네 매 디니 코로나사자 찍니 현장을 두고 된다 투 디니 키디 람가 땅샤나니 슝기 디니 역도 셰그 스타칸 역도 셰 대치한테 키디 켄 세가 줘스 대 키디 켄 캅잡대 세그 다 디제와 야고 말을 따그러와 코로나 베니피트 기 삼라마다 거 제와 말이도 간서 콜 페이지 미드가 그 세샤가 그 페이지 미드 람가 유거티 디도 제와다 나란토게 사장게 제와서게 부투게 제와서게 탐제티 랑게 또 랑도 이지 로에 니샴 첨부사는 알 펜토그레 삼게 니 사장들 알 기두글 펜토그레 딘지게 제와레테 이네 제와디 인지케잖아 컨디션 게 제와레 오야 상기 장주섬기게 제와디 딘데 말에 간데지 요나 요 메나메 약부 지나 제 마치나 마치 남양 기로미긴 제와들라 주민기 제 닝제서요 따til러가 둥릉부지 셰기요다 둥릉부 셰나 페체제 두쪽에 상상 말다 대 멍멍을 납되는 두쪽으로 말마도 근데 주민기 닝제서긴데 상기 장주섬비기 제와야 땅이디 로르지 셰샤나 dig 말다 셰긴 랍사리 야마셰나 탐제기 제 암조 사일 겨기래 티인데간 즉 셰샤와 이나 배낭고마 좀 된데 상기 좀 된데 마르기다 생겨와 땅가라 결로 마르기데 주민기 닝제스레 주민기 소바 주민기 닝제 주민기 되는 거란서 잠바스긴티 땡 거란서 단단디 kenzo 인지기 킬라 샴부지긴도 말이 띵일 tilop죠 땡이 디질라 적셀로 달도 달도다
when we practice meditation, then we need to check and measure our progress, and the way to do this is to look at how involved we are in the 8 worldly concerns. So it's a bit like if you're going to kind of buy something, buy a certain object, you first of all examine, okay, is this like the original genuine thing, or is it a fake? Or if you're journeying somewhere, you check every now and then to check that you're on the right track, right? So likewise, when training in meditation, the way to check whether we're making genuine progress, whether we're on track or not, is to see how involved we are in the 8 worldly concerns, whether our 8 worldly concerns are lessening or increasing. Also, whether our compassion is becoming more uncontrived, more natural, more unconditional. We talk about uncontrived, unconditional compassion. This means this is quite different from the conditional or limited compassion and love that we have, for instance, for our family and friends. That is a type of love, yes, but it is conditional and it's limited. Recently I was in Australia and I noticed how well people treated their dogs, looking after them so well and cleaning up after picking out their poop and so on. Probably those same people wouldn't help their parents in that way, but they do it for their dogs. That's something cuddling their dogs, sleeping with them in the same bed, and all of that. And I said, oh, it's so good, all of you Australian people showing so much love for your dogs. And then someone said, actually, it's not really that good. It's not very genuine. People just keep dogs because they're a comfort for them, that they're lonely and they want some comfort and company. And when the dog gets old and is no longer brings the owner so much joy, and becomes a bit of like an anchor or ties them down, well, they're not allowed to just abandon their dogs like on the street because the government would fine them for that. So instead they take their dog to a vet and get it put down, which means they kill the dog because the dog is no longer providing them with joy. This is not real love, is it? This is actually just self-interest. And often the love that we have for our family and friends is similarly like conditional love rooted in self-interest. The Buddha's love, or the love of awakened beings, is starkly different from that. It's unconditional, it's uncontrived, it's free of self-interest.
Oh yeah, ngaranzo sasange tsewa ina ya uni kitu conditional nyamdo dotingi sasang tsewa ti ya bore. Labra to phamage pudulu tsewa ti pemmi gi tene tsewa ti ta chidang ge da chakpa shenba gi tsewa ta rete yena shenda mandra ge tsewa jore. Pudugu ton to rang troglyo tang to gyo gi tene tsewa jore. Chomden de ge sondu. Oh yeah, ta ngaranzo de lorgi sherpe ringbu shekere. Mar sheba tinchewa tinsowa tene ge yong ge chamba lasam namda. Oh yeah, dini chanchu gilam to ko bas tangharan so giti tanda lamdun nangla tini gyunsen menga dunda debi go ni tini phama iba ta ti she yang phama ge putu sewa de yang khila sewa che de na shi mare pem mi ge phama ge putu sewa de une ge yang ta pheje chanchu sem dan dau je ta tirang re se gide yang rang ge pu ji gu ma to shen la yang sewa chi maro ti ma to ge ma ge pu sewa che dang ti pem mi ge yang shen da mandra we ge tini indication special savra special in a kind sera da tire uchire ta te lurji ta te yusho te tinde indu kan ta ngarang se wa tham che de ji shenba yo de gen de wo tang rang la ji kepin yo gi ge wa de mang che wa de tinde de de tire chanchu sem gi ge wa tang chanchu sem bi chamba de de ma ta chum den de ge un tine di sera kan sa market da sing chore galo market da sing son chum den de marki jadi galu jin thai gi pui na chigre tin du kho aba khorang aba se shar kho aba de se ni ko galu se shar ta ti lurgi ringbu jor ta ka jur na pe ringbu ta ti lurgi ringbu de ma lo na ta tine she den da mangbu go re ta ina du she ba ina tine ko dul hejin gi ching gi labne dul hejin de chom den de la ta na me na ya lo ba chi gi war sa chom den de la tine pe mi kha ta cho dun de la kurwa ta chom den shin de gi lam la tin ku lam pe lam lo la chi tine chi gi war tin du kan la margi dadi tine korpara dul hejing gi ten ramira mangul lamni te chomden de la pe ngaran sana obial mangutana khoge o ya ngon tene gyalu si jin thaya yowe ne kapsu tene chomden de khordan che wal pem mi gi tene shapto phu tene tawa thamche la shapto chomden de la nyengur che te khang ma de chige yore te ta shamni khug abade khoron se tene khugi dul hejing gi kola chingi lamne khora gyalti thobi che abasa shana nyewa mar khon gyalu sin chana ti gyalu si gi mixel gi shiu jere ten la tene kui chue to logan apate se tene dul hejing gi khana shin nyene tene chumin gi jawa ta da je ngoni gi gomba thamje ta shigin sare tene gomba thamje me ba chue thamje me kui gi lungba la taji kongen thamje de ma chuwa che chomden de khorna che wa thamje sane pi o ya ta tinja chene tene ji timde tanggu ma je gel timde tanggu ma je tene lungba la naza mangbu chang lungba la tene singa ya bo ma je bang thamje ngolo gelwi gi chapsi nyam ta lochu chung아지 나가 뱀미기 두부 중으로다 야로고 뱀미다 내가 두자체나 디나민데 두부 옹그러와 어야 팀 당부 맞으는 미망고로 그러와다 때 딘데치는 빼 야로데 마르게트데 파르캅치는 로추 중아지는 뱀미기 두부 중으로 야로데 때 두부 중도 간라 다 니마직 두부 빼다 가이나 소와 결위 결티이나 냠도게 다 신다가 막 저기게 냥가 랑게 자사바 냠다 발조르 냠 때니 미망고로 다지 철주 뒤수면야 내니 신가 탐제 깜다 딘데기 강알 채우지 투운도 강와 때 니마직 때는 고빼 강알 좋다 미리 누구 중에 아마서 도로 때 콩 아마라라네 당알 오니 예만은 가서디 갈갑도 빼 기부단 대우단 야고 쇼인데 단 딘데기 누구지 레송 땅이 가르치고에는 강이 있나서 때고 아마담로 손에 계셔레스 때 아마도 쿄를 누구 마이는 수롱 누구 쿄를 연구를 때 큐삼을 땅 결혼 아바세래 저기 때 딘나시 좀 된데 코르타 제와들 인구르 지교 때문에 쿄 아바가 두서 때 인구르 지교를 감만저기 때 겐든 소리 인구르 지교를 차츠베 표고를 쏘는 그 속사를 쿄 속사교 탐제 샤모 좀 된데 탐제 율니 삐바 드레강을 제래 때니 쿄팀 당고 지교 말에 오늘 미망 탐제를 쿄게 때니 팀 마장 왔잖아 쿄를 두고 보면 손 누구 연구래 다른 뜰 두고 연구를 아마 그렇게 당 다 코셈팜 닝제 다 컨디션 가운데 뜨니 아말 그 깨져티레스 다 가리치는 가기래로 다 가리치기 좀 말에 결혼 좀 된데 군노선 샤바슈 니래가 지금 노도 좀 된데 톨로 샤소 좀 된데 떨어시 때좀 된데 결 깐난 길에 때 딘나시 깐난 지 주바이나 큐기 결과부터 날래 따르게와 종기를 했어요 때 아마되게 라브레스 때 공화 좀 된들 동박 한데 된 roller스 그다 간지 이 좀 된들 근데 누구 땅에 진짜 공부 코르담지 삐기 강갈 텐데 그 땅 좀 된데 코르 다좀 된들 그렇게 들 그렇게 먹고요래 네 둘해진게 칼이네 좀 된데 둘 랑징여 봤던 거기 마르게다 랑보 중요 바 코르 탐지 좀막 강바 탐지 좀 밑탐지 세 지기로 좀 된데 배운데 간 둘해진게 좀 된데 뭘 땅 랑보 중요 바지 땅도 가마 사 탐지 야로네 코 탈라서 레온데가 상기 좀 된데 니마티니 무데 공식을 배우 그래서 그 공식 배우도 강한테 땅네 좀 된데 정도잖아 그 처치고 좀 된데 정주 처치 제때 이나 좀 된데 툭 장주선 비기노데 라마도 자와도 코로나 여기게 되는 차를 여되긴 코르탐제 드드죠 좀 된데 드고 말아서 좀 된데 배워 랑보체 땅봉원에게 셰당 그 멤버네 때 레온데 가부다 랑보질레 늘 상기 좀 된데 절기 제가 랑친 말아 잠도 바르가지 랑진 kunyo 탐제 땅 양진 랑 상기 좀 된데 드르드가 랑보지 많고 나게 티샵로 터바도 오야 티데체일로교 텐디가 딱산좀 된데 코랑 그 니와마도 둘하진 게 상기 좀 된데 둘하진 먹었는데 마켓다게 둘하진 게 칼린 좀 된데 쫑쫑 sar카시제 다 누구 먹고다 다 딘데 누구 좀 아주 있나 다 들었다 샤과 지축사 말와 맙 네팔 계제나 맙당 경사 말와 오야 텐데 딱니 빼 두자 쉬우제셔 좀 된데 가 샤과 지금 말아 좀 된들 동박 한데 가 로투고 말아 티 아마리 텐데 말에 좀 된데서는 상기래 결 가게 규모 결혼 유당 결 다른 빼좀 된데 결 액셉트 지기래 결 전부 지기 저런 결 남대기래 결 손다 좀 된데 군중 도나 텐데 나 결혼 산중 막다 코페 못사다 만드는 그런 게 빼내당도 두자 도나니 코 잘로래 말결 첨보여래 니소 좀 된들 그 누구 먹고 땅 사는데 좀 되는 보지 좀 된들 나랑서 어길 먹고 깨사인데 가 공모 산다 드라마 페데 때나 아마 죽다다 경고 말해 좀 된데 군된 도스 때네 코때네 따고 잘로를 왔지 있으면 따나 싱다 막다 뜨다 망보케는 때네 좀 된데 군된 도스 딴 로운데 가한테 따좀 된데 그런 잘로 에서다 킬로미터가 쭉쭉 된데서 때네 그런 싱다는 말밥 어야 락자 탐지 마삐니 칸서 다 멘다다 그런 먹미 여기 또 탐지 마샤 그런 게 고이 괜찮다 탐지 말또 강박에 함삐 때 강진한테 좀 된 것도 손. 좀 된 것이 어디 간 콜레그 하고 다 캔다 캔. 된도 다 코셈노 뺑어서 다좀 된데 그 땅선 야 지금 말에 땅 알아도면 버게는 야를 제명 삼모도보다 좀 된데 다 콜라지 인설도서 인지가 인설서 봐. 근데 지금에서는 코페셈노 그런 셈 나동을 심부지 여르대 단로샤 때좀 된데 딱 뭐네 그 레옹도 간때 좀 된데 뭐시 캔네 야다 드링 뭐네게 때는 마켓다 때세마 약보지 균네 레고도 또 gond도 간좀 된데 마 그런 알아서 지 공부 납주 주지 콜 수가 펴래 좀 된데 잘코 셈나 좀 된다 좀 된데 그런 다콜 수가 레도 간데 빼 당아라서 웰컴 빼미기 슈크심버로 때라 때 코페 좀 된데 샤볼 때 무샤 좀 된데게 투그나나 측바사규 샤당랑 유치가마 어 말이 다른 때는 마르게다 켜 데오엠베 켜 칼림메 켜 야부예베 송데 간테 코페 그런 깨다는 의샤라 아서 의샤게 들으죠 대좀 된데게 샤버터바도 땡이페 미길레가 노라치에서 단 딘나 신제 켈랑이 디르기 때문에 그렇게 내가 듣고든지 되는 디나싱이 파세 다 파세나 벤 쳔메방가 일레와 냐와 도르지 때만 도서야 말 딘득이 랭에 바사 대켈랑이 딘득이 때문에 간서다 그런데 tindergi tseme tinder show object tang appe migi tin yaba chewa chungdu sente chom den ter shakwa shudu kanala te chom den de ota kage kyo mar kyo inje mashi ware makoro kyo mar esan tin shakwa sore she den kholo lobde nam chwe tinder dugore shakwa tinder chegore den gorna tini ka naunde te tatil yugi ringo te tinder naunde ka te ku pesam chom den de so na shin se dubung du kanala Tini ngoni tine tashiwa punzum soba ten charchu tusuba lochudan bangda meser tamdi dewo tini chomdinde korda chewa khorangi lungbal denshu tindole nyenguru che tini kur tempa su gendungi de tamchila shaptoshu tini tashiwa chitu kante ama saginashi ngarle tarkiwa chungri tini tu kang chomdindele shetanga yo mar nganzu ina nyingne sungkira wa ta kho dukujing wa ta di dukujing tu kang ta khor shirugore sangkira chomdindele tine meba tarong tuk ngoma le kyan tuk zewa chenpo kogo dundu suru pep ya tene tarong kyo tene margete kyo lamga la kale majungwe kyo kawa ma songa se tere songa o ti indu kala ngarang so ina shedang di nyingde chewo shedang wara kong nambala tete we jamba ina ya ngarang so ina self benefit yo marda kong nambala randu ichige lo yo mar zewa ina nambar takba nyingje ina nambar takba sopa ina nambar takba ti indu kala ngaran so chonjuk nala imba tin de kangla ngeba chena dedrwa dewi jungne tela chansalo senga chonjuk na yo de pe je kingen ta shu de tamje tin de kangla ngeba chena de yakbu chena da changju seban namla yakbu yong barate ngeba jene tin marge de chomdin de dubutana ya chomdin de tu yakbu chene yakbu changre so tin de kangla tinjudi sewa den namda sopa den namda chapa den namda tim maimbi ngaranzo ta Australia ki kil chambu te kesa America samje tito ingire de kil chambu shuchiga jo ya shamju kil kap jab se girtin anda lamgal yuguri jigden bichaga res
So, a story, a story to illustrate this. So our love, as I've said, our love is based in self-interest. It's conditional and limited. It's not the genuine love and compassion of bodhicitta that's free of self-interest. There's a story from Buddha Shakyamuni's life that illustrates this really well. It illustrates the unconditional love and compassion of enlightened beings. This is actually a very long story, but I'll tell it just really in a really concise version of it. So there was a person called Makyaja during Buddha Shakyamuni's time. He was his father was a king, so he was a crown prince. But at one point he actually killed his own father so that he could assume the throne and become king. Prior to that, Buddha Shakyamuni had been invited to his kingdom, and the Sangha had been honored and hosted and so on. But this person, Makyaja, he murdered his father, he assumed the throne, and then he expelled Buddha Shakyamuni's Sangha. He destroyed all the temples, burnt them to the ground. He defamed Buddha Shakyamuni, refused to host him, did terrible, terrible things. As a result, the whole for 10 or 15 years, his whole kingdom was plagued with famine and disease and so on. A terrible civil unrest, social unrest, and just intense suffering and a lot of problems. This person, Makyaja, had been blessed, or we could say influenced by one of the most powerful maras or demons, Gara Wangchuk. This mara, or the legend, sorry, I don't know how to say that in Sanskrit. Devadatta, thank you. So had been influenced in a very negative way. Anyway, he got himself into this, himself and his kingdom into this very difficult situation. He ended up so desperate that he went to his mother, just not knowing what to do. He went to his mother. Often that's the case, right? When children are in a fix, they end up going to their mother and asking for advice. When he went to his mother just said very frankly, he said, what do you expect? Of course you and your kingdom are in this situation. Look at what you've done. You killed your own father. You disrespected the Buddha. Buddha, this enlightened being, you should be making offerings to him, paying homage, paying worship, hosting his Sangha, and so on and so forth. Instead, you've done the absolute opposite. You've done everything you can to disrespect and attempt to harm the Buddha. Of course you are suffering. Of course your kingdom in this state. What do you expect? When Makyaja received this frank reply from his mother, he was just distraught, you know. And he thought, and then he said, well, what can I do? What can I do about it? And she said, well, what you need to do is you need to go to Buddha Shakyamuni and confess all your misdeeds, and then do whatever Buddha Shakyamuni tells you to do. That is what you need to do. But when Makyaja heard this, he thought, well, how can I dare go into the presence of Buddha Shakyamuni? Just to mention a few of the things Makyaja had done to Buddha Shakyamuni, or tried to do. He tried several times to actually murder Buddha. One time he sent a mad elephant directly at Buddha, knowing that Buddha was heading in a certain direction for his meal. He sent this crazed elephant who just dug up all the trees, destroyed houses, just went on a complete rampage, and was approaching Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddha Shakyamuni was with a retinue of students and Sangha. They were all terrified and were about to run away, and then Buddha said, no, there's no need to be afraid, just stay where you are. And as the Buddha, this wild, crazy elephant, as it approached Buddha, it just slowly became calmer and calmer and calmer. And when it reached Buddha, it actually bowed down and touched its trunk to Buddha's feet. That was the power of Buddha's compassion, Buddha's love. It could influence and tame and pacify the elephant just through his compassionate presence. So that's just one of the things that Makyaja had done. He tried to murder Buddha in this and other ways many times. So he was just so ashamed. You know, if we'd done something like that to someone, we would never dare go into their presence, right? It's just too awful to acknowledge. His mother said, though, no, you don't have to worry. Buddha is Buddha. He is all compassion. He will forgive you. Just go and see him and confess. The king was filled with, of course, pride, because he's a king, but also this intense shame. But eventually he did go. Being a king, he set out from his kingdom with an army and a retinue, riding in a chariot, all decked up in armor and weapons and so on. But when he was approaching Buddha Shakyamuni, when he was about 5 kilometers from Buddha, he got down from a chariot, he took off his weapons and armor, he took off his shoes also, and he left his soldiers behind. And then he set off to Buddha Shakyamuni just on foot. Buddha Shakyamuni, being clairvoyant, he knew that Makyaja was coming. And the king was just thinking, oh, Buddha Shakyamuni, of course he will ignore me, he'll probably insult me. Of course, you know, considering what I've done to him in the past. So he was kind of filled with his anguish and dread as he approached Buddha Shakyamuni. But Buddha, knowing that Makyaja was arriving, he actually set out and walked sort of 50 or 60 steps towards Makyaja in greeting, like to welcome him. Instead of, when he saw the King Makyaja, instead of insulting him or ignoring him as King Makyaja was expecting, he actually said, how are you? Are you all right? You're not tired from the journey, are you? And he just expressed his concern. The king was just so taken aback, and he collapsed. He just wept and wailed and was totally overcome. He confessed all of his misdeeds. He confessed murdering his father. He confessed everything he'd done to harm Buddha, to harm his Sangha and the Dharma. The Buddha accepted all of his confessions. He accepted all of them, and he said, you know, you don't have to worry. You did all of those things out of your ignorance. It's okay. And then the story is quite detailed, like I said, but just to sum up quickly, in short, the Buddha absolved him and then gave him instructions, and King Makyaja did just as Buddha said. And the result was that he and his kingdom came to flourish once more. So this story just goes to show that the compassion of enlightened compassion, the compassion of enlightened beings like Buddha Shakyamuni is completely free of aggression. It's just pure love, pure compassion. Look at how he welcomed Makyajra, who had tried to kill him many times. So enlightened compassion is utterly void of any self-interest, any selfishness. It's pure, unsullied love, compassion, and patience. That is the nature of enlightened compassion. It's just like it's taught in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. To paraphrase, it said, Bodhisattvas with unconditional compassion, they even return harm with love and compassion. This is quite different from the limited love, conditional so-called love of ordinary people, right? Like, to use again the example of people in Australia who keep dogs just for their own comfort and then kill them when they become an inconvenience.
Oh yeah, the Indu Kala that Chanchu Sambandamgi, Sangye Chomdin that Pemi Tombukazer, Tim Menaya, Unigi, Tene Chanchu Gisem, that Dembandamgi, Tene Ngaranzo, Yamne Yabuzoba Chimbo Yamne Yoginta, Tongi Gitawala, Tene Peng Yeshe Yogin, Tensuki the Inji Diam, number Taba, or Randi Ichi, Lo Maimba. The Inji Kitchen unchanging Sawina, and Girwats and Medigan, Getene, Yaku Yodukan la Gana, Duku Yodukan at Nepe, Yantilatine, Duja Chicken, Tinder Maimba, Gundu, Ningji Yotakin Tilla, the Ningjetine, Yantaba Sere, Chanchu Sambanam, Ningje Sere, Tatilla, Mikpan maybe Ningjesena and Tigre, or the Tin Dukan la Tindu Jungre. Tindu, that Mihanbuchege, Zobachimbo Tawa Yantaba Yetakin, Zobachimbo Tawa Yantaba Gum Digging la. Takari Yongrisna, Nishirin Bujumina Teresonshire, Yanta Tavi, Migdena, Nabinian, the Tobapel, Kepregunte, Tendella, Ijingi Goji Bosung. Tati Karisungorisna, Yanta Tavi, Migdena, Zobachimbu Tawa, Yanta Vanye again, that yes against Zobachimbu Tot returned. Yanta Tavi, Migdena, Yanta with Tawa Tot digging getting in Zobachimbu Kiwajina, Narminian, the Tobapel Lavre. Not making yam the door penning, not Mishi with him shading, not Mako him good digging. Ninja, Petsulmi to Gula digging, Lama la Tepa, Chimeba you digging, Lee Gundela Yeshe ranching it denting into the Jong. That done around the midterm the Pecha Kazute, Gum Kazakan, Lama la Katan, Chola Katan, Tenichi Lee Gundela Kurata, oh yeah, Teneconjo Sum la Kurata, Gurumbujela Kurata, Sangye de la Kurata digging, so tongue when it tower lopping it Gulishes. Talok the Julius on the Tersar. Ngoma in the Talok the Tandachi, Ngoma King Mabusungre. Ngoni getting Naranso Ruta Tarbana was against Sotia, Ngomatene, Naranso Gelon Tuka Junukundin Latene, oh yeah, Dampartan, Tensukitini, Molam Lopatap, Tini Lama the Kak, Chil Lolo, Tinisham Rutakias. What Tinda younger, that Nansan today you said, Ngoma and Tinda Junior, the Ngoma Mare, Tanda and Shungu Sare, or the Indukala Conjo, some Legundilla, Kuratap, some punch in the charter. The Indukala. Tawa yang tawa inge bayina lama la lota chigimare legunde la lota chigimare ningji kegre tepa yang kegre hawar do keber gunde tende la ngishi kibi gochiku sondo ne tende ge tawa yang tawa inge legunde le ise ya chigre semjen la ningje chowa me ge ningje yongre o ya lama la michipi tepa yongre diso yongna gom ya ko yong ta 캐나조 탐제 삼로트라 드링 판조이나 곰 작인게 소이나 곰데 야고 중도미도 밀시가 마도 나 곰 시우지 갸베 찍찍찍찍 로망고 참된 간테도 라마라 자사다게 네파게 자당에도 테르치고 마네 랑게 때네 곰 야고잖아 셈바디 양톨레 요데게 추이 지깅이 미데 셈바디 기부용 그래 어야 추이 지깅게 셈바디 양톨레 요데게 수민직 왔자니 메데게 요나 수dig되게 메나야 수네 기부 요나 되게 득부 요나 되게 셈바디 그 양톨레 요데게 Tine semchenla nyingje ke degen, lama la yang teba dungi waji yo degen, le gyunde le ishe yogi, takyo tawa de yakbochir, lamka yakbochir tawa de norme bitare. Tinde mayimbe le gyunde la ishe megen, lama la teba megen, semchenla nyingje megen, o ya tinde kyo da tekyo lamde lokba chasara, takyo keza mil chigo mara, kyo lamde lokba changsare. Di lokba chungsa ngi labyo marada, jamgui mifam rumboche. 양다 따위에 믹된나 ngarma nyamda toba per khepre gyunde tendela ishinge be geji gochibu sondo o ya ta tende kan khananzo tamji jela ya gom yago chungdo mindu trata ore gom yago chungna tina shingi yonden so rangla rangshingi charong ji yongre Tin Randun the Chiki Gonyamba, Hindun the Ninja Gumit, Sunmit the Gula Charva, saying on Tindira, because Hakosona, Tering Zukanava Tamjigita, shoot together Shigoti, Tawa Yanta was then them into Gomba Yanta, what then the Chopa Yanta, what them do, second take it, Tachi Chikito was Tanga indication testing the Chikiti. No Chova Sudan Suina, Ninja Chambo, Taba Chambo, Legion de Yeshe Chambo Yona. Tawa Yanta, but should do it. Tinder my imagine that many monk would doing some monk would doing, Badar Guru Bumjamang would doing, she would get chains again the Inayatini, Shatan Chero Chero, Argel Chero Chero, Chapo Saro Saro, Tini Duxu Chero Chero, Guyu Mando Mando, Ruena, then the Chile takes Saint of Kuncheva, Chicken, go to the Sweeter Mando, show and them to Mashakotar. And around the Lurgumo shake you, the Lurgumo and a conjure to Zut and data around the magic shame as a result of Jinjava to Kalmabu Godrosare. I think the country should number the second December Kibu Yongore. Oh, yeah, Maransoge, Zobachimbo, Salzona, Chison to Sena. Papi Demba Toma, Papi Demba Tona Galvise, Topa Conduction and Naming Day said that down the Topa Tombo in second Monguda. On Casacado, Quat, Topa Lama, Topa Tombo, the Koran, Topa in the Dorajing, Topa Tombo in second Mongudu. Topa Tombo rest again, Mongudu, Lomas Tamje, Topa Tombore. Ah, Naji, the Lama, the Topa Tombores again. Ko, the Topa Tombo in the Dorj, some dead again. Yeah, that Topa Tombo in and somebody keep shoes gorda. Only you and Mena Kana and Kibu Mare, Lama Nito Mindu, Lama Liberation should do. Lama Latina Corporate, Sylving Travel South, so you drink it. Oh, I thought Topa Muta, that is Topa Muta. Lama Topa Yakan, Sempa young Tolly was gorda. Ding he love your mother, Chum didn't dig a song, Chum didn't did Nana and Salzo Nasore. Oh, yeah, Papi Demba Tuna, Galvi sailor, Demba she Nelu. That's it, Demba she, Demba the need, Demba, Demba Leo Mangoja, the Papi Demba Tuna, Galvi says, T. Only Sangye Grab Dorjig said, and Kundu Zampu said, and Chum didn't dig a serious lovely. Papi Demba Tuna, Galvi say. Topa Kondo Chuna, Namyang days, that Topa Tombo in second, Tini, December the Kipu, 30. You're taking the what in the Gortang, Lumba Solomoni, Chevakashe, Semba Kibutan dating into Tinsam, that sometimes Topatumbo Shuredo, did you hammer with that and the Samadana? Only Topatumbo in the Semba in a young trolley. If I say, Namka now, the Tinipeng around so in a Dungur chicken, Nashingi, Dudjom Rinpoche has no feelings against the other tender intention of Namian, Devotionsona, Tine, Kibu Tarva, the Tinder Margin May Punch. Lama Travaina, Kiwmer, Turguina, Kiwmer, Camboyana, Kiwmer, Makiwa Madeva, Sheva Charanso in and through the Rutrogan so in are, Manindongan so in are, some Degans so in a Semba Makiwati, Sanga singing Durutinicapara, Mushocho, the Choncho, the content, Sheva Yakumatar, Tashanka in a minute. Sure, Yakuji has a Semba Tikibuko. Tangaya looking you shake you to zoom, look at the shake you, Yamazo Lumba, Sin Jones against England, Gimiji Libre. That the Lord you never should say you that that to them, Yama can take your shot out. Then the Mogolam, Mogor.
Of course, if we use Buddha Shakyamuni, if we're talking about Buddha Shakyamuni, that's like the highest kind of example or person we could point to, right? But even if we can also just look at genuine practitioners of the great perfection, accomplished practitioners. They will have an unchanging and pure unconditional love. Unchanging in the sense that their love and compassion doesn't waver in response to like praise or criticism or someone helping them or harming them. So this is what Bodhisattva's compassion is like, unchanging and pure. We could also call it compassion without reference point or without concept. In his treatise Beacon of Certainty, Mipa Rinpoche explains that the signs of realization of the great perfection, the signs of having realized the state of the great perfection, are that having, the lines that Rinpoche quoted go like this. When you attain the eyes of the genuine view, meaning when you realize the view of the great perfection, so when you've attained the eyes or sight of the genuine view, then you come to know that which you did not know before. You come to understand things you didn't know before, just naturally. Likewise, you give rise to uncontrived compassion, to unwavering faith, to devotion in the gurus, and to deeper and deeper confidence in karmic cause and effect. So all of these are the signs of genuine meditation, of genuine practice. These days, a lot of people engage in practice, seemingly, apparently, but often the result is actually the opposite of this. Instead of developing uncontrived, genuine compassion, instead of developing unchanging faith, increasing devotion in the gurus, in the Dharma, and increasing trust in karmic cause and effect, instead, you sometimes find people whose views become more distorted, more mistaken. We talk about wrong view, mistaken view. If people can develop, go astray and develop wrong view, and an entrenched wrong view, and then make mistaken negative aspirations, and even be reborn as demons, as Rudra, for instance, as accounts of that happening in the past. On the other hand, when you, a sign of genuine...
Okay, good.
Sign of genuine practice, meaning genuine realization of the great perfection, the view of the great perfection, is the development and enhancement of all the qualities we just mentioned, the qualities that Mipa Rinpoche himself mentioned. So, uncontrived compassion, unchanging faith, confidence in karmic cause and effect, deepening devotion in one's gurus. So this being the case, when you practice, when you engage in practice, you don't, if you want to check for yourself whether your practice is progressing or not, whether it's correct or not, you don't need to go and ask someone else. You don't need to go to a Lama and say, oh, I stayed on 3-year retreat. Can you tell me if if I'm getting it right or not? You actually just need to look at yourself and examine, ask yourself whether these qualities are developing in you or not. If they are, then it's a clear sign that you're on the right track. And if these qualities are absent, then it's a clear sign that your practice is not on track. No need to ask someone else, so just look honestly into your own mind. If you practice genuinely, if you've realized the view of great perfection properly, then all of these qualities will of their own accord arise. Similarly, as I said before, for one's own benefit, the 8 worldly concerns will decrease, they'll erode. For the benefit of others, uncontrived compassion will arise and increase. So these are the signs of genuine practice, like I said. This is the outcome, like the result that we need to attain, to bring about through practice. Otherwise, just engaging in lots of like practice sessions, sitting for a long time in meditation, doing retreats and pujas and this and that. If we do all of that, but we find actually that our emotions are just increasing, we become like more hard-hearted, more intractable and so on, more reactive, that's a clear sign that our practice isn't actually hitting the vital point. It's not doing what it's meant to be doing. We might be wearing robes and acting as a practitioner, but it's just appearances. It's just an appearance, not the real thing. A genuine practitioner, an authentic practitioner, will naturally be at ease, content, and happy, regardless of what their situation is. These days, there's a lot of, often people kind of praise other lamas and practitioners as having a high view and being highly realized and this and that. There's lots of sort of talk about, this person having a high view and all of that. But the real proof is in the pudding, we could say. So if someone is really realized, if they really have a high view, the sign of that will be that they're happy, they're content, they're at ease, open and spacious. That's a sign of realization. These days you get a lot of supposedly realized lamas who are said to be suffering from depression or insomnia and so on. Those two just cannot go hand in hand. You can't be realized and suffering from depression or insomnia. Depression and insomnia and such are signs of a lack of realization, not realization. Buddha himself said, when you see the truth of noble ones, then you are a son or daughter of the Buddhas, meaning an heir or offspring of Buddha Shakyamuni or of the Buddha like Garabdoje and so on. When you have high realization, then you are always happy, you're always at ease. So Buddha Shakyamuni said it himself. This is really true. You can see practitioners like this. Some where I'm from, there are some people like this. Some practitioners who were just always at ease and cheerful, no matter what their situation. Or we can look at the example of Dudjom Rinpoche, who's described as having no feelings, right? So that should be the result of genuine. That is the result of genuine practice.
Yeah, that is Shamatha de Troma Mundel Godu. That's all Samari. Tadi Kala. Yeah, that Gom Yabuji, Tawa Yabu, watching Tawa Yabu, the Gomba Yabu, Choba Yabu, in a Taras again, the Yingche Choba me about the Legion de Guti. In a tag, Naranso in a Gom kit in a Tayabu de Tire. Tati into Kala, Naranso ya Pem Migi Church in Buchima Tubna, Nimachig Mado Tunji Machina, Chuzu Chigi Tun Machin, Tuzu Chigi Tunza Mata Machina, Tun the Yapo, Same like Jeva Jigana, teacher a pent up 10 younger. Oh, yeah, Chuzu Chig in a teacher the pent of Antilla, Ronsum Mahaparinirvana, the son of the Pena, Nangoma design Hakume, the jail Ronsum get taken to the Hakosum. The day into Kanaranso in a Gomji Yamata, Gomji Yamata, Pent of Sichamindu, as she would Pen Tokumidu or some kind of Pezatana, Chimachi Uzu Yamna, Tigachi, Pengimindu or some kind of Nanzo the Naranzo Perlung Balachi Kulus in Jonga, look at Kulus, nothing sure, the Lamzan did again. Shiu Uzu Yamatumne. Tundiring it in a pent of meeting into Nimachi Uzu Yamna Pentamentacha, Sundu Jenaja Mindu, as she Pecha Shazamare some do. What in a young Arangoma. In a young Ronsum Mahaparinirvana taken to the age Jalon Dukan Latina Council to Sena. Perna said, Sapun Sala Tavaina, Sapun Sala Tavaina, Sapun the Kigul Kazo, Sapun Kashi, Dawakashi is all they got in the way. Kashi is not doing it and other toes against your other lumbal. Trou the Yoshe Kicker, Nimanga took in Kolamsan Kaikini, Jangotan, Matimatoki, Sabun Nima Kashi Dawa Degoki, Kashi Nimachu Degin, Shawasha took Degin, Tinda Yureta, Sabun Maltabna, Petina into Sabun Sala Taba, Nanyam to Kolamsan, get the Duminji to go to Guyers, so you. In another Tongu Marva. I think that is Taratana, need Nimanin Taranja gave me to Taran, Nimangatu and other tones, Joaquin at the toes there at the Tender Mahim, Dawar raised the soul dead against that Kiesa Horomar is another some Jugin Yankai. Tea to kind of Gomti in a young twin chick matojima, Gomiaco, twin chicks yamna, Tinashin is empty like Secure was a 10 Tegore, so Tatimani Samotana. Dimba Dimba, the Chanzoina, Tun Nima Dawa Doma, Wachima Tumnaya, Tun Yapu chick. When you get some that you call the Shiva and I get Tawa, the Gomba Mother, we're going to send para Rampa so lovely. Yapu, Degina, Tun Chutu Sigmatum, Tun Chutu Sig, the logical coach, Tersar Kajamate, Tun Chutu Sigmata, Made Naya, the Turkey. Exam tool to draw you down, your more shiru to you 10 days ago. Perna, Sapun Sala, Tamne, Sunjig, La Karma seconds, Karcha Regis in the cotine, Koilega Chigi or Sawan, Tichigi, Timaji Pancho, Nimachi Legacy, Nimachi Levan, Nimasum, Nimasum, and Dawachi Legacy Marawa, the Indu Kana, Korongi Goni, Karma Karse Goni, Legacy or Petina Jinjig, Twin Chigi and I, Twin Korongi Chigi, Koron Kazu, Nibakazu, and Tiggy Assembly, your Tebu yours.
So in short, when we practice the view, meditation, and conduct of the great perfection correctly, properly, then the signs of that will be a natural arising of compassion, confidence in karma, cause and effect, and so on and so forth. Even if we practice just one short session a day, do just one short session of practice a day, if we do that genuinely in a focused way, applying ourselves, that short session of practice will definitely bring about benefit, without a doubt. Rongsa Mahapandita gives an example in his text, Entering the Way of the Greater Vehicle. In the past, I would sometimes maybe you could say, get discouraged, or perhaps was a bit short-sighted, thinking, sit in meditation, practice meditation, but it's not really bringing about much transformation, or I think, oh, I've done this and that study, but it's not really making much difference. A kind of short-sighted attitude where you just want like a result to come about straight away, and you think, oh, if it doesn't, then you feel like nothing's happening. I used to sometimes think like that in the past, and then I came across this statement in Rongsa Mahapandita's text, where he says, as soon as a seed is planted in the ground, even if it takes several months to sprout, still from the moment of planting, the seed is actually ripening and growing, like things are taking place. So some seeds need to stay underground for, like after being planted, they need to stay underground for several months before they sprout. Some seeds, maybe the fastest, will sprout within like 5 or 6 days. Some take 10 days. Some take a few weeks. But even if the seeds takes several months to sprout, that's not to say that nothing's happening during those months, right? Just because the sprout hasn't sort of risen to the surface and become visible to us, that doesn't mean stuff isn't happening. Every second that the seed is in the ground, things are happening. The seed is changing. It's growing. We think that, because we don't see any sprout, that therefore nothing's happening, but that's mistaken. So the same goes with practice. Even one short session of practice for 30 minutes or 1 hour, if you sit and apply yourself in that session, for sure that is going to bring about a degree of transformation, help reduce the desire, aversion, and ignorance plaguing your mind, reduce your confusion, and so on. This being the case, even if you are not able to go and apply yourself for months or years of intense practice and retreat, even if you just sit and do sort of 1 hour of practice a day, that practice will definitely be of benefit. It will not be insignificant. It's just like that seed sitting in the ground. Every second something is happening.
Oh yeah. 다 임바든단 dengyunasa 다 임바든 얘기 되게 겨울압기 쪄봐 임바 어야 되네 돈바송나 자세 임바 똥이트네게 따와른 뭐지 어야 되네 곰나 난주리 임바 다디 임바 든두 다디 임바 든게 인고는 제가 잡사래 단들 마찬가지 하고 있는 교기 잡사로시 대인도간 임바 든단 dengyunasa 뒤숨 결위 동섭인에서 동섭세나 콩게 찹인에서 결섭도다 나랑서는 MBC에서 리프레젠트 있는 지그래서도 왔다 결과 조비 상기 남기게 되네 농습디 얘기 공는 쉐바나 신체게 둔디 덴바이나 어야 임바 둔단 덴바이나 때 결과세다 지와 남지게 세레세 농습세나다 되게 결습도 세도 차도래 손에 라마 템비 균진이서 다티 미들라 결과세다 지와 남지게 농습세나다 야테 세이스나한테 라마 규비게 균진이서나 되게 손 다기게 롱전탕와나 신체게 상기 덴바 통나 결위세 ya tene topa kondu chena namyang de se lavgen de tire tene dongsup se de kala jalwi ge dongsup se de jalwi ge tene ta se so ware jalwi ge jalsap se ware ya ta ta ye ge ne tene tawan nam prataba gomban nam prataba cheban nam prataba zogba chempo takum chosum tan den de ba sendila duba karang ge tene kra thar jalwa jigden choge ta tarwa chonson phanchu otan deni jalwi se jalwan nam ki ge se in slamre Lama Tambaki Jupiki Junsin Slavata, Junsin Sing Peza Shivara Pena, Naranzo, Gonda, Gongu, Daju, Yanku, Jubasum, Ningmala, Pemiki Jubasum, Gongu, Daju, Yanku, Jubatam Jetiantine. I tell church against the watching book and Najar Telatong or Indi, Lama Tambi, Junsin, said I, Jubatam Jigitin and Zangi. Naranzo Pashul Punzens, Pai, should put in singing out of Perky Peza Shimbutiri. Didn't sing Lama get the Rangi Tamba Commandam Jigetine. Damga tang zokpa chempe chugi gyun tamje zingen tela lama tambi gyunjin se gyunjin yen so le ya ta to chi ta gyose man duen shama to tarsa marada.
When you possess these 7 qualities, so these 7 qualities refer to the 7 qualities mentioned in the 7 pairs of lines above. So starting from to practice for as long as you live is the conduct of the best type of person. And then the next 2 lines, with being without hypocrisy and deceit, guarding your vows and samayas, then you're the Buddha's heir, and so on. So training in the precious view of emptiness, letting be without fabrication, not modifying your behavior for others, not keeping company with others, drawing a boundary against the 8 worldly concerns. Those 7 pairs of lines, right, above. when you possess these 7 points or these 7 qualities, then you are a successor of the Buddhas, past, present, and future, the Buddhas of the 3 times. And when we say successor, we mean like the regent or representative, a bit like, an embassy representing a country. Likewise, you are a holder of the sublime Guru's lineage. So when you are endowed with these qualities, you're a holder of the sublime Guru's lineage. We can talk about the 3 lineages or lines of transmission, the wisdom transmission, symbolic transmission, and oral transmission. All of the teachings of the Great Perfection are contained in those 3 lines of transmission. So when you possess these qualities, you can be called a holder of the sublime Guru's lineage.
Tatishana ahosana monsterchevitonje. Tati yang tandi tawiki diritu. Tatagi tawada gomba chopadan ju tamje shesarete. Yang guru tawada tozi yang konge chiseta tawada kechewa indukala. Tawala lope gomba lope chopa lope ju yomare. Tindukala tandi tawiki ngane yang tozi mare Yeshe redu. Tindukala ahosata monsterches lore. Ni kandu nawa jayane. Du namya shepa gasale tangindi dewa shu gyagme kang san di dewa tam yenggon songsare ya ting dewa gishin geba ngarang kang shishi de japsari ting de kang tan dine ma chi chig de du de ne ma ro shanan de gendo witu du namya shepa gasale to sutet shitul chopan zang se le chi che pa yo gyavran de sore de dambi yang chu tamba yin sore 야, 다 아호스 맞을 제라. 네 강도 나와 야야니. 세다 이pen은 저거 심비 난줄지나. 네 강도 도야 맞지 봐줘 말해. 네 간지지 도에나 야 단들다 니오야 잡을링 게다 셔셔. 야, 다 비즈니스 센터 셔셔 드레스고 그래. 다 기부 임차도 셔셔로야. 네 많이 네 간지질 되게 있나. 네 강도 나와 야야니. 나와 야인 세도 간라. 나와 탐지 접어다 접던데. 야인 세도 간라. 처음에 봐. 야인 세도 야 세겐데 나랑저 초당 야 세겐데 되네 타유비게 되는데 야인 세도 처음에 봐. 야메 봐. 야 세겐데 참라고 그래. 야 세겐데 유로메 발고 그래. 야 세겐데 탈라고 그래. 띵도 간라 야인 세도 간라 처음에 봐. 야메 봐. 참메 봐. 양초리 에와지요세다. 니 강도 나와 야야니 세겐데 강라야한테 짐바당 니란 짐바당 샴바당 오야 틴데메 바테 니 탐지 랑깅 오네 똥바 야 틴 랑낭 리미키 난 줬다 오지기 틴 나와 탐지 랑낭도 똥오레 띠띠데 나와 탐지 랑낭 트바당 트빙오 또나 틴 나와 야야네세 틴 남양 셰파 가살리 세타 셰파 틴 난신기 쉐 탐지 트바당 트비기 랑신 리피기 살도 똥온데가 틴 남양 셰파 가야 쳬바 야고지 기부만 두고 멍이 되기 랍소 때 들다다 두어데 야 저거 신분 난조리인스 이 조민도 저거 난조리인스 소롱쇼도 저거 신분 난조리인스 배샤라 시도로 지기도 저거 신분 난조리인스도 간라 대초기민도 쓰기 어디 간테 저거 신분 난조로 많이 betare 데디 나이 랍죠 말에 Dudjom Lingpa 송도인데 뒤 남양 셰바 가살리 세 저거 신분 난조긴데 셈바테 키틀리 여되게 사기 연난다 공주 연난다 통보 연난다 마오 연난다 기부 중나다 누구 중나야 돼서 바디 양털이 요긴지 용그래 손에 뒤남야 셰바 가살리 세타깅이 서게네 파피 템바 토나 야루세 야 테네 똑바 콘도 춘나 남양데 생디 따따 튠데도 돼 니티 니거도 야 로신죠 말 니거도 딕데도 뒤남야 셰바 가살리 조수체 시들 저반장 저거 신분 나저 수도 트나 참부요래 야 테네 지금 잘 딕나다 카샤가 딕이면서 콩아 나와 두고민도 코직직직이래도 쓰긴데 체도 나나야 담득장마 메서긴데 어디 잘아서리 덴진다 인진기 진교서 대차그마도 저거 신분 나저지라 수단 트나 미치바 메바 민자와 메바 미튼바 메바 가와라 소나야 그러더라 야 그러면 인가란소이나 지 탐지단 딕되게 탐지단 튠되게 야 근데 차도래 대인디가라 저 수체에서 체도랑게 체도도다 디마인 체초도 마이나 섬진 수당 태나야지 다투바도다 마지바다 마디바 카시기들 두다 괜찮아 최와 야부터 레인데 삼지알 비샴트래도 어때야지 냠레 야부메 딱지 레도와데 디나다나 조수티 시들 줘봐자 레치체 바요 겨런티 땡기서 레균델이 이제 용을 라선 대다 딱딱도 돼 레치제 봐요 게버티스 레 강세나야 운이게 아야 되네 봐요 섭섭단 에 레기들 삼로탄 지그레서 게버티스 게와 저버침 난저지나 지교탐 추역하지 마도 지딩기 저와 지금 말 게와마도 딕보 두고 말해서 강어서는 꽃다와 상고치다 곰바 상고치다 쩌바 상고치 요 인디간라 그 야고지 마도 온고 말어 야 대인디간라 gewa tene lechiche payo gewarti zoba chimbu nelu to degenti saja kawal de na kitingi sheba khande kidu khande chona gayale tropu sentre tuna chamrele le khande chena gewi gile ma to le gyundela tene yishe ta le gyundela lowa me ba hakone gewarti te dambi yangju tambayin ta di dambi se te dambi yangju tambayin ta di dangshin ji yago je chungwa yina chewa de namda gomba de gom yangda tokpa togen to tokpa tokdin yangda gelon ina gelon yangda ngarang so gelon so ina juju na la tön tambi gelon sing jewa o ya nilu ge tön to wa de la tön tambi do was gelon sere o ya te indu kan la te dambi yang chu tambai se ya ta ti bar tu chik de ta singtel de man ge lon min do
Aho. So this is like an exclamation of amazement, like how wondrous, how amazing. With this in the following few lines, we have like a repetition or an expansion of the explanation of the view. Actually, Dudjom Lingpa already explained the view above, but here he kind of reiterates and expands slightly. So I'm not going to explain these lines in any kind of detail. As I've just said, they're an expansion of the view, and I've already explained the view as best as I can above in earlier sessions. So wherever you are, appearances are free and unconfined. If you're a practitioner of the Great Perfection, then wherever you are, wherever you are happy, you're at ease. We're in New York, this place which is apparently like the business capital of the world. So of course we should be happy to be here. But as a Great Perfection practitioner, one will be happy, naturally will be happy wherever you are, wherever you find yourself. Appearances are free and uncontrived. So free and unconfined. So unrestricted, unconfined, without limit, without direction, without boundary, beyond constructs and extremes. And free here has the sense of being without grasping, being without fixation, attachment to place, realizing that all appearances are essentially emptiness, that they are, all appearances are self-appearances, all appearances are self-display. At all times, awareness is limpidly joyful. So the Great Perfection practitioner realizes that all appearances are the display or expression of the intrinsic nature, and in this way they are limpidly joyful. So naturally joyful and at ease. As I said earlier, these days we hear talk about this and that great practitioner of the Great Perfection who is suffering from depression or what have you. That is just a contradiction in terms. If you are a genuine practitioner of the Great Perfection, then you are naturally joyful and at ease, whatever is happening. This is not my words, my statement. This is stated by Dudjom Lingpa himself. So whatever circumstances you find yourself in, you will naturally be joyful and at ease. This matches up with the two lines of spoken by Buddha Shakyamuni that I quoted a moment ago, where Buddha says, when you realize the truth of noble ones, you are offspring of you are heir of the Buddhas. When you realize the high view, you are naturally at ease. These two statements line up perfectly. Whoever you meet, your conduct is beautifully serene. A Great Perfection practitioner will naturally get on with everyone. They'll be at ease in everyone's company, naturally harmonious, without any conflict or issues, without likes and dislikes. They're not touchy, they're not, they just get on with everyone. There'll be no issues of like conflict with their Vajra siblings or other people. This is all because they have no attachment, no clinging, and conflicts and problems come from clinging, right? Sometimes we do hear about practitioners who like just don't get on with other people. That's got to be some indication that they're not practicing well. So whoever you meet, your conduct is beautifully serene, and whatever you do, it's done carefully and blended with virtue. So whatever you do, it's done carefully with awareness and care. Care meaning caution about karmic cause and effect. As we said earlier, the practitioner, genuine practitioner, becomes increasingly aware of karmic cause and effect. So whatever you do, it's done carefully with karmic cause and effect in mind and blended with virtue. So everything the great perfection practitioner does is virtuous. They perform no non-virtue because their view, meditation and conduct are all wholesome, all excellent, and therefore there is no opportunity for non-virtue to come about. These are the sacred quintessence of the instructions. So these 4 points mentioned in the 4 lines above are the sacred quintessence of the instructions. In short, if you can practice like this, then you are a genuine practitioner, you're a genuine meditator, you're a genuine monastic or a genuine bhikshu. We talk about like the ultimate or true bhikshu, which means someone who's realized the natural state.
Sem yene ma che tat ngangon do juna to de in sem ye tong tangsel nyotel la ngorang to chopa to de ni se tan di kangso san sem yene ma che tat sem khorong ma che ba shang na chopa ta tal de re de tin de sem yene ma che tat se ngarang so sem de la sungjing ge leong de kana sem jin cha song le sungjing ge le pa tan tra song de la tin ngarang so na Yeshe se yo re tin de sem yene ma che tat chopa tan tra ba di Yeshe chunyi ki ngaranso rangjung ki rikpa sekinti sem chunyi choba tarwi ki tine yulchin tela rikpa sekinti kaa sarasana sem sekinti sungzi nita chewa la sem sewari tindu kata sem di sungzi nita trasona di chunyi ki rikpa chatore tindu sem yene machi tuanta trasa sem yene machi ba ngoni sem khorong ngol choba ta tarware ote ngangon dur gyurna ta te choba ta sem khorong ngol choba ta tarwati ngang se na rangshin sere ti ngon tu gyurna sere ti ngosum do ya to ne ngosum salu khorong ya to ne tan di tobar chewa la mashi lama cha shebo je gogo sare zoba chimbu ge na ju to ge lama cha shebo che lama de khewa che du pheme thore tu tokpada dembe lama che gi tini ngoni ngote ba ina ngochogo sare tiang tokpada demba che lama chibu chuna ko yang lama tia teba chimbo 진짜지 고고사도 나랑 속에 때네 도르셈 나라 강기 팅기 대신이 깨징이도 처럼 라마rin 진 따위고 도르지 찬세 펠란 뒤에서 가서 텔랍고요 오야 뒤티네 줄기 쓰그래 뒤 남균 강게 댕게 생각도 양쇼 정도 같이 그런 것도 라마 잡아서 내가 돈다 빼미 첨부지래도 근데 티나 강사는 강기 팅기 대신이 깨징이도 대신 쓰는 리퀘스트를 한 중에 깨징이도 처럼 강사 리포모도 탑스야라 모두 규규티 라마자시고 지글티네 라레기or 강기팅기 대신 깨징기도 샤라칸 라마린 친타위고 세테 라마야 똑보다 덴바치 라마야 때 대바데 덴바이죠나 티니 티 친럽기때 랑거릭바티야 탁세 로파르샤게나 신 성공 로파르 차쇼리 로샤게나지 티니 모투기어사레 다티 강원도 규나서 똑드니 세테 라마 때기티네 덴데기릭방고데 똑보다 덴바레스 셈예동 당설 욕절 라가서 셈 예니 동바 당설 세대야 동상이 와 지지가 메되게 나라도 감 동바 나시 잘라 동바 나시 남카 동바 나시 지지가 메되 딘데 동바 말해라 당설 세대 강라 되니 나라서 오 동바 임바 라신 살와 임바 투지 군집기 당 유비 된들라 당설 세게래 따til라 롱고다 추구니 툴구니기 기텐당 유바라 당설세 셈예동 당설 욕절 라가세 ngorang tok chapa tokden se ti rikpati yeni tene kusumki danyi ngo tongbi rangshin tuji kunchubki danyi ngo tongba rangshin salwe danyi tuji kunchubki danyi kusumki she lunchi chapa tengi te ngocho sonyi na ngorang tok chapa se ngocho ki ngo rangshin tuji sumki ngo chapa ti chapa tokden se te tokpata tenpa seken te tires sonri yadan karma chuchonga chiru sarada kennan baso.
Mind is forever unfabricated beyond concepts and extremes. Mind is primordially unfabricated, uncontrived. It is naturally beyond concepts, conceptual constructs, and extremes. When we rest, when we let be in the natural state of mind, we see that it is, or we see that it is beyond concepts, void of concepts and extremes. When mind is free of mistaken grasping, dualistic fixation of subject and object, then it is primordial wisdom, it is natural awareness, the intrinsic nature, or self-arisen Rigpa. When mind becomes fettered by adventitious dualistic fixation, then we have conceptual mind. But when that dualistic fixation is released, then mind is the intrinsic nature beyond all constructs, natural awareness or Rigpa. When you actualize this state means the nature, the natural state. When you actualize this, meaning when you realize it directly, to realize or actualize this state, then one needs a realized guru, a genuine realized guru, not someone who's just learned, but someone who's actually realized. The student also from their side needs to have really intense faith and devotion towards the guru. When these two things come together, then it's possible that the student can be introduced to the nature of mind and actually recognize it. So when you actualize this state, then you're realized. Mind is primordially empty. So mind is primordially, originally empty, but we don't mean just like a void, blank emptiness, like an empty cupboard or something, but rather mind is primordially empty and at the same time naturally luminous. We talk about the nature of mind being empty in essence and luminous in nature. It is unsullied, unstained. When you recognize this within yourself, so when you recognize this primordial wisdom that is the identity or embodiment of the three kayas, the Dharmakaya of empty essence, the Sambhogakaya of luminous nature, and the Namanakaya of compassionate capacity. When you recognize these, then you are realized.
Oh yeah. Takara Sentiola, Simgo, Sang Gepala, Nangon Duguna, Todin, Sim Yetur Kurdi, Tanyamche, Ngo Ransar Shepa Todin, Slav. Tandi Kanson Resena, Simgo, Sang Gepala, Sim Korongo, in Sangye, in and around Sim Sangye in Bahamako. Teneta Gona, 6 times get the Kodama, Tondak Goni, Rangi, Guni, Unigi, Novitone Matos on the Kanata, Sangye, and other times. Semjen dadan taye semjen ko yene sangye yembala imberje dangi chansi shot semge shatam donga chigo de di mate chimbi gyur di pe sa chimbu re de samlu dangi chigo mar khara de dem de de indi kala taka ngone ge chi ngarang so domba so pe zigbu khyan dong go da ngone ge ningti de na he tin na ji ko tersar de na ya tin ge lagbar do Troma de di zigel zigju san yo mar de tin ko la samlu dangi michiga meram ta yang hamba chadore to pechi yo sa mare de indi samlu dangi ran duro de Sem Ngo Sang Gebala, Sem Sangye is another time to have or Silla, Sem Sangye, the shaking for Sangye, another switch, Daron Chason Yamong, Tumchitum dead there. The Chason Yamong to Sanking on the Kurgu Mary. The Indu Ganata, Tandangaranzo, Radna Limpa, Tening Aranzo, Sung Najison Dosena, Osum Novi Matona, Sikam Disonte. Mosum Novi Madonna, Tokchit Shingi Loma la, Lanchin Kummer, Lord Chujang, Sikam Namka Domjalda, the best sexual dangita Lord Dorsem, Lunda Jung, Drugme. Oh, yeah, they in the Tati Council Resena, Novi Gon Tokores, or Zopa Chimbus again, the Karoge Kagi Shajon, Jizema, Vandala, 나도 된도 드라마 대 빼미 돈다 셈 보시고요. 이네 이 드라마 대 되지만 나랑서 루주로 땅만 도셔가 그래. 디나 진지기다 나랑서 된데 페메 도르니 조바 쳔부레 나 조바 쳔부 칸에 조바 쳔부 나네 조바 쳔부 랍나 펜토 마레. 뇽위 고는 좀 거래. 스테 카르말링 베게 손데. 라트날링 바 카르말링 베. 대. 단디 강송레세나 돈 뇽 세레. Yanguantagi, Lord Rosondayan, Tada Jesarson. Oh, yeah, Titire, Tin, the Mosum Nui Madonna, ya Tinekara para Tochut Sikam, Tochut Tineshingi Loma, Loma la, Lancing Lord Chukan, tene tsikam namka domjan dras karma lingpa desong tadi kangsong rase bancho nyongwi gon togore se zoba chimbati rangi kiduk rangi deduk rangi chonnang toda rikpa ngoji chosona tene ngone ki te rikpa de ngo chore ma to timata peja mangbo shiu tang gon dangsa peja mangbo tang za tere nyo do se do da menda kangjung mangjung lam do de do de do thamsi ti peje tende insa de karma lingpi lungden na ta thebse insa re te indu kala o ya dichire se bancho 독주 측기 독주 신기 로마라서 똑바도 저 빼빼자 망보하고 슝 망보하고 셰규 망보 시오지어를 마시어거데 지가 셈을 지가 평기 메르디 눈에 지가 저렇게 메르 당장 가서 컴퓨터 기체 되게 나지 컴퓨터 개자를 바라바라 망보 시어도 걸 똑바 가게요 말이 거거 바라바라 로봇 나 땅샤겐데보다 디도버리 디도 우차도래 해송래 디인도 강라 랑신 쿠르모 로르슈경서 진짜 측감부직부 그게 되네 시되긴데 랑부치 쿠르스다 랑부치 빼메게 되는 첨부로다 랑신 지기도 편 길로 앞게 두개 앞게 두개도 땡땡 그러고 있지. 뒤인데 랑부치 지기라 되네 킨돌 앞게 뒤는 뒤야 랑부치 말 랑부치 망부치게 되네 쿠르 랑신 쿠르 망세 쿠르 망부서 랑부치 쿠르 잡차지 로 주고 있는 가게 편도고 말해서 측감 남기 돌저 측감부지래 편도고 말해서 남가 도브저서 남가디 domba chi ni ze namka jal thugu marwa ya nam tinde jobba dona namka jal thugu mendo rocket jobba tinde dona namka jal thugu mendo dang dang ta halam ngaran so ge tine sam mingman na ro mi che chi da niman damla garo garo thang yese yese du or so kilometer chewa tongkil mo chi dona ya namkal ta se yo mar pe tin na shin che ge rang ge nyowi ge thone jobba chimbo chi ngode ma theni sikkambu ge jobba chimbo na ne jobba chimbo kha ne jobba chimbo lap ke jobba chimbo to gu mare son karam ling pa ke o tire tindu ka ta titobur chewal thap khang gore se phanchu one lama to din gor pena on ten telopa ke ten naruba ge 방좀 가서 고들 잡을 수 타다 되지 슈티 kan 대점 때문에 미고 라도 kan 되는 이제 세운데 라마도 공원냠들 어디 캐고 주나 텔로파디 나로파디 텔로발 캐 나로파 꿈빼 미기 때문에 비크마실리게 펜트다 캐와 침부군이 기 디티도 콩라 캐요 말이 텔로파디 냐좀 두드게 곰첸지다 알아서 계시나 이나야 니루고 돈데 마도 온데 kan라 텔로파게 나로파게 근데 토방가 더직 쉬운데 간때 똑소래. 이때는 다들 랍기 로르기 망고야. 다 로르기 셴나. 뒤서 저거 막 캐나다 이 탭들 로그 있는 탭 나를 페이지 요사요. 티니 티나신 지게 가랑서 빠트르 뭐지 빼사신 버려 왔다. 빠트르 뭐지 랍도 간다 잉마 길룩사게 탐지기 싸시고. 사고라도 잉마다 빠트르 뭐지 나신 저 말데. 빠트르 뭐지 개와삼기 메겨도 리방고 제제를 맘마 쳐려도. tiene riba matre to gan nima chi dokinze ishi durji magi gonde apya mares kong mal pebro te kuni tours labga to de dokinze ishi durji te chi yang chi kepala tri dang tiene ngoro pakza tra nam chang chue tiene chi yosa do te ode gan tiene patru mbuji sigres zochen yegi ya zochen ya yongsa chore ti ta zochen gombal dosa jida shiri sang dosa lamga kong te ngo ti re kebu dasar be te re song do te leb tu kan la dokinze ishi durji ma phe ngoro patru mbuji ya phe onde kan la 공야도 아하 딜라마 되는 거는 직밀링 비틀고 들어 자신 버때 철루데 지금 직된 껴온 아니 티당 때는 박자 남 아하 때는 툭을 때는 공레스 공데 람상 도케제 이들 지 캔서도 바투름 부지 정좀 가서 이야르지 두고 말지 두 kirgin슬라 그러세요 디송도 가나 바투름 부지 샹라 도케제 예시도 이제 청초게나 이제 청지팔 가서 달라마다 자신 버때 라르도 두아서레스 딘들람니 kirgen서 야르니스로 독도지 슈드간 빠트르 뭐지 나라즈이나 직보 직서 앙부리 도겐도 직 리파스eng으로 직다운데가 데릭방 어쩌다 때단다 빠트르 뭐지 수능나라 kirgen peso서 망고요 이 kirgen peso는 도켄제 이시 도르지긴 상밍레세 리방 어쩌비 상위민 콩민 자쇼데세 kirgen peso 데디감 도켄제 이시 티나싱 빠트르 뭐지 나신 캐와라야 양원이 리방 어쩌긴 도켄제 이시 도르지로 고고서도 디나신 지기 나르바 나신 기 캐와 침부 슬람 기 미겹지라 텔로바 나신 기 리방 어쩌긴 고고서도 마도게 치기 장조 직부 캐원 당다 치기 가지 장때는 담메라리 단 당성하게 lumpu nonna norchungi is lumpu nonna nora chungchungre kebi nonna norching is lavre te rang ko lam kolo so mitamje lam kolo te pesagre lagpardo kembuda turgu so tenen tamenda gumcholo lega tenen tamenda cheon mil tamenda lab chue mayin badla chue keze shena tin ngoni ki tenen kor temba de khoni tuktugi nyanga yo oya te indu kala semgo de mache panjoina shegyo de pen togu mare se 추기 니루기 된데 마도나 케와 인생의 펜토고 말해서 어디 인지 간라 어야 된 무슨 용위 맞춥나 어야 되기 딜나 룽데 먹잖아 두즈 먹고 어디 있어야 간라더니 우니가 라마 똑바다 대바지 군디나 케와 침부소이나 라마 똑바다 대바지를 뜨고 왔어도 라마 똑바다 대바지를 뚝 딜라니 드네 걸페 녀바 숨기 샤도 둑 라마라 상기 뮤긴도 시게 되니 가라서 온도 야보짤 거다 온도 뭔가도 야보짤 딜 학버도 야 라민난 줄 라민난 줄선 바자르 구창 규트리 티 라마당 그런 거지 예매도 때네 바자르 구창 파르갑싱 라마 통데 간라 상기응의 통gen데 보진 두시지게 거라세 디제 두시지 되게 온주 줘서래 디게 손한테 릭방 어떻게 팬토고서는 마도 딘데잖아 매바지 가서 닝마디 온도데 사시버 디나 라만난 줄도 사시버 탐지기 랍도 균센지르잖아 릭방 어떻게라 라마지 마지나 릭방 어떻게 거스마 라마들 상기기 두시마기게 버도 릭바디 어떻게 매서래 딘도 라마라 상기 따고래 세게 균센티 딘데지를 두고 서래 야 나래 semgo 예상 개발랑 강원도 균나 또된 셈 유튜브 그런데 당념체 뭐랑서 셰바 또된 야다티 버트릭스.
So mind's true nature is primordially awakened. When you actualize this state, you're realized. The true nature of mind is primordially awakened. We all understand this perhaps intellectually. In terms of words, like we've heard these words before, we get the words, but we lack an understanding of what they really mean in terms of our experience. Students who study the scriptures and are familiar with the teachings, often we chant like very profound statements from the tantras that say, "Oh, all sentient beings are primordially enlightened," and so on and so forth. But have any of us actually experienced or realized the meaning of those profound statements? Have any of us even reflected on them in a deep, in any kind of deep sense? We talk about Buddha nature, oh yes, all sentient beings have Buddha nature, all sentient beings possess Buddha nature. But do we really understand what that means? We sort of talk about Buddha nature, parrot Buddha nature, but we're still cocooned in the cocooned in a shroud of the three poisons of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. It's like the Master Dudjom Lingpa said, if you fail to realize through your own experience, if you fail to gain like direct realization through your personal experience, so when it comes to the great perfection or the natural state, we need to realize that directly through our own personal experience. This means in terms of our own, our own experience of happiness and suffering, of ups and downs, our own sensations. Otherwise, if we just engage in study and pursue these teachings on an intellectual level, that really won't bring us any benefit. It might even send us crazy. If we don't apply the teachings to our mind, then a lot of study can be, it's almost just like, being a computer or a robot or something, because, it doesn't touch our own mind. So Dudjom Lingpa said, you need to realize directly through your own experience. Otherwise, to paraphrase, just like intellectual understanding is just dry words. Many elephant loads of scriptures. Even if you have many elephant loads of scriptures, I think an elephant can probably carry like 500 or 600 kilos. So imagine many elephants carrying that many scriptures. But if the meaning of that is not realized directly through your own experience, it amounts to nothing more than dry words, meaning there is no benefit to it. And Dudjom Lingpa ends this by saying, it's a bit like, to paraphrase, he says it's like trying to measure space. Space cannot be measured, so to try and put a measurement on space is just useless. In order to realize, so it says when you actualize this state, then you'll realize. But in order to realize, one needs to encounter a realized guru. For instance, Telopa, Naropa's guru, Telopa. Naropa was a great pandit. He was a celebrated scholar, Telopa was just this like sadhu who ate live fish. But Telopa had realization, that was the difference. Eventually Telopa, one day he slapped Naropa on the forehead with his sandal and said, "Still you don't get it, do you?" Naropa passed out, and when he woke up, his mind was merged inseparably with Telopa's. He perfectly realized. There are loads of stories to illustrate this, illustrate how in order to gain realization you need to rely on an accomplished master. I think a lot of this and many other stories I mention in my book. Patrul Rinpoche is another example. Patrul Rinpoche was a celebrated master respected by all 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism, especially the Nyingpo school. He was extremely learned, a great scholar, but he only actually realized the nature of mind later on in life, when he was introduced to it by Dokyense. They met, Patrul Rinpoche encountered him on the road to Dzogchen monastery, Dzogchen Shirasingha Shedra. And even though Patrul Rinpoche had a lot of respect for him, he found himself thinking, "Oh, this Dokyense, he's an emanation of Dudjom Lingpa. He's a great emanation, but what a shame that he acts the way he does, walking around with weapons and dressed the way he does, his breath stinking of alcohol." This thought arose in Patrul Rinpoche's mind, and Dokyense, with his clairvoyance, saw what Patrul Rinpoche was thinking. And he just kind of attacked Patrul Rinpoche. He grabbed him by the cuff and sort of threw him around and said, "You old dog, you old dog," and tossed him onto the ground. And Patrul Rinpoche kind of almost fainted, almost passed out. And in that moment, then he realized directly the natural state. He was introduced to the natural state. And actually, some of Patrul Rinpoche's texts, you see him calling himself the old dog. This is actually his secret name, his most profound name, and it comes from this encounter with Dokyense when he was given, when he gained recognition. This also highlights the fact that it's not possible to really introduce students or to benefit students just through intellectual or benefit others just through intellectual knowledge and learning. Until one has also gained experience and realization, it's not possible to genuinely benefit others. So in short, if we want to actualize this state and gain realization, as I said, a realization of the mind's true nature, which is primordially awakened, we need to meet with a realized guru. We need faith in that realized guru. We also need to practice the Nyondro, the preliminary practices, and especially Guru Yoga, meaning chanting the Vajrayana mantra, visualizing Guru Rinpoche as inseparable with our own root guru. We need to cultivate perception of our guru, our root guru as the Buddha. It seems that until we can see our own teacher as the Buddha in person, it's not possible to actually realize the nature of mind. So we need to practice Guru Yoga to cultivate that perception, and then we can realize.
ing lundup dechin tigli ku pel minne sebi taru pep tar chunu pumkurun jalu trol sendiru trol top shiktu rems tandin diu shebar tanga zo tegez gom ta tawa she gomba she choba she ta tiam pe mi gom ta shamnin diu top goro di diu ten goro ing lundup dechin tigli ku ing sna rangjung gi shere ing sna jungkhung re rangjung gi she le khorwa da nyang te ni gar jung goro labar do ya ta nyang de gi tine chue gi yende kunga sunga tunga yende nga Tinling as again, Yundin Tishu, Nizanga, Ing Ranjunga, Ing Leongore. Ing Lundrups, Ingla good and Kegi gave my ranching a lungi to that cousin Tangsho, the Ringits of a Chimbo in Terra Mogan Tire. The Indukan Ing Lundrup, the Chantilicos, the Devachimbo, that Devachimbo Chuguri. Oh, yeah, Tinet, they let the Tilicos, Tiglis again the lamp, and they're open Mogan, Tiglis again the Trepa the Territrange. Tick lace again, ticks again, Juruan Bepare, lace and a cabet, Jurmit Chawachimbo, say Tondar, that the Bima Mitak in the Sundu. Tick again, Jurmit Chavachimbo. The Jurmit Chavachimbo, the Sulco, the Chuguluko, Inglaco, Ingi and then the Jurmit Chavachimbo, around Ma, Tiglianje, Gongolon, does it and Dudjom Troma. No Tiglis again, Jurmit Chavachimbo, secretary. The Jurmit Chavachimbo, the Ranjung the Rivare. They do ing lundu dechin tigliku pel minne sebi tarupelza ta pel minze 당부 춘잉 무슨 되게 그 춘잉 무슨 기 뭐지 되네 냠 콤펠제 되네 릭파세베제 된 춘이 세서서 다디 시요레 되인디 간단 데조 측 시거드 신민도 데 다디나라 센센잖아 되거래 야 되인디 간라 당부 춘잉 무슨 춘잉 무슨 게 나와 냠 콤펠 게 나와 릭파세베 게 나와 춘이 세서 게 나와 다디 나와 시요레 데 춘이 세서 게 나와려서 상게 손레 어때인데 양 링징 건데시나 남미 링징 세게 때네 차왕 링징 세때 차신 링징 때네 룬드 링징 링징 나바시어 다든지 디우 건데시나 율징기 건데시나 안디다 예세게 나지 냠 공부 중에 어때래 디우 건데 강사 율기 건데시게나 링징 나바시셔 어떤도 강시나 마시나 펠와타 민바네 세비타로 펩슬라 다티파르토 펩고레 라브라다 중중 편토만 상기 응수되네 그러바라 tene dipa kunbong ge sangye chig top go yona ya te top go yona tene sungi sasar leb go yer ta tile ta pe dewa gyashen bor ya nilu rang ju na la pe gyashen bo tekchong zo zo na la ta dema koron ala sum gya di ge korne dewa re ta te zo dewa ta je nga zo gyashe ge mare la gyagyu tu zo yo mare gyag tu ge mare kenzo nyangyu ge tu zo yo mare 다 개왔다 삼고는 아주 낭바 상기게 쳐도 빼띵 사버려 가수 말아 시는 되게서 말아 딩링도 주진다 인디 단 대조 탐제시나 특적 저 코로나라 데마 갭게 이나 굽게 지요래 데마 갭게 굽게 돼 소우디든 조바신부 따고 곰바 따티나니 치료를 못 하고 나와서 좀더 탐지시어야 돼 소우디 조바신부 시지 조바신부 전에 펠민네스 베타로 펩스긴 딘 들어왔다 요래 tar shunu pumgur jali tol labrata tar serta diu ge tar tu de kan shunu pumgo sen rangarang so yo deva junu se gente tine rangjung rikpa de digu yo mare tigi chunsan shunu lare pumku se de pumba se gente dumbu ge tan dumbu de total ge tan dumbu se gente thame de gente total ge tan tine ku se de kan kempi ge chala ko ore chuku se ge na chuku se de chiga me ge mare songdo 이진저 나라 군경롱제람 점게 추구스긴데 추스긴 동양 마인바 구스디게 이시기 찬에서 구스고 디인도 간라 붐쿠르스데네 붐비쿠스데 랑중거리바 아야티네 쿠르멤바텔라 붐쿠르스레 잘류톨 사타 슈누 붐쿠르기티네 톱소나 텔류 잘류라 사치기 류샤타게 류탐진 자르타네 티네 거바란 잘류라 양나가 먹어요 잘류 포화 첨보세 잘류 티네 거바라 nga라이나 잘류 첨보세 티네 잘류 충무세 견자보다 야 티네 디칸세스나 잘류 디어르타다 할람살람사 땡기면도 잘류 오쿠르스 잘류 포화 첨보스는 구름 비치래 꾸산이라 싱샤기메 바게 꿀리 코랑가 바틴다 죽데네 티네 시아타가 류기 라시메테 벤젤리 포아침보선 비마미타당 구름보치서 젤리 포아침보샤 젤리 오구르스데 간테 젤리 마마타 베탄 벤 냐라페마 든둘라서 젤리 도샤나 치게 꾸 서모단 거버타 양제지 말린 남칼당도게 젤리 오구르스레 된 젤리 양 충무스라 반제 쿠수도 충도 손에 바라 칼라 실을 땅에나 깔아 찍자마도 말류되게 꿀리 축강만 류미도 쓰긴데 디게즈만 류미도 쓰기더라 도 라마드네 꿀리 중중잖아 상게 데르만나 케렌 쓰기더라 여러 버서 오티인데 간한테네 젤리 충무슬라브레 데디데 다다 젤리라 남랑 망고 셰기어 다 텐소 땅에 이실라만 나타오레 오티인데 간한테 타르준노 뽕고리 젤리 돌 센드로 또 센디로 톨톱식도 렘 사타쿠기 렘 세나 캄바게나 렘 세나 타케 미기 삽삽치쇼 세레다 나라티나 타 칸서다 렘 세디칸라타 틴데지 꿀위게 되냐레 큐가 틴데지 치쇼스모레 티넨 티안테는 절류 센드리 절류 트리비기 티네 거라바라 야 티네 트로바토바지 치쇼 팝상게 부 캄바게 파상게 부 이네 직스기도 오야 파상게 부 렘 슬라브라티 인디칸 야, 다 들으셨어. 된 잘살소.
Mind is primordially liberated, the great purity and equality of samsara and nirvana. When you recognize this in its own place, you're realized. Mind is the great consummation of samsara and nirvana. When you see this for yourself, you're realized. Now we come to the fruition, an explanation of the fruition or the result. We've talked a lot about the view, meditation, and the conduct, but they lead to a fruition, so we need to talk about that. naturally present basic space, or dhatu. Dhatu, or basic space, refers to natural awareness, naturally present awareness. It's the source or the origin, the spontaneously present, unborn source or origin of all the kayas, the wisdoms, the 25 qualities of enlightenment, and so on and so forth. This is the naturally present basic space. The Bindu kaya of great bliss. Great bliss here refers to Dhammakaya. Bindu, or in Tibetan Tikle, this refers to freedom of being free of constructs, conceptual constructs and extremes. Vimalamitra explains that Bindu, or Tibetan Tikle, means unchanging and all-pervasive. Unchanging and all-pervasive. So here we're talking about the Dhammakaya, Dhatu, basic space. Then we have the next line, increasing ripening, then reaching complete exhaustion, and finally liberated as the rainbow kaya. Finally liberated as the rainbow body. So this is referring to the 4 visions, the 4 visions of manifest dharmata, increased experience, awareness reaching fullness, and the exhaustion of concepts and phenomena. Increased, yes, these 4 in short. These 4. When you reach the 4th and final of these 4 visions, the complete exhaustion of concepts and phenomena, then you have manifested, you've reached complete enlightenment, perfect enlightenment. We can also talk about the result of fruition in terms of the 4 Vidyadhara levels, the Vidyadhara of ripening, of long life, of the Great Seal, and spontaneous accomplishment. So 2 different ways of describing the fruition. The 4 visions presented from the perspective of the subject, and the 4 Vidyadharas from the perspective of the object, but they both describe the fruition. The point is, we need to proceed to this point, this point of full enlightenment that has discarded all obscurations. These points are described in a great amount of detail in texts like Neluk Rangjung, which is 200 or more pages long, and in Longchenpa's Treasury of the Supreme Vehicle. That treatise is 800 or 900 pages long. It's concerned solely with the view, meditation, conduct of the Great Perfection. It also touches on the view, meditation, and conduct of the non-Buddhist schools and all the lower Buddhist schools, but it focuses mainly on the Great Perfection, and there you'll find very detailed explanations of these 4 visions and so on. We don't have time to go into that here. We don't have time to go into that here, but profound and deep explanations and further detail can be found in those scriptures. Then we have the next line. Finally liberated as the rainbow body into the youthful vase body. So natural awareness, self-arisen awareness, is beyond increase and decrease. Therefore, it's described as youthful. It is without extremes, without limit or edge. Therefore, it's described as round and hence being like a vase. So the youthful vase body, this is natural awareness, naturally risen awareness. When you attain this, then you are liberated as the rainbow body or into the rainbow body. There are different types of rainbow body. For instance, the rainbow body of great transference, which is the type of rainbow body manifested by Guru Rinpoche and Vimalamitra. What we call the great rainbow body, then lesser rainbow body, which is, for instance, when lamas, their body doesn't dissolve entirely, but it shrinks, sometimes even to the point of like just 1 foot high or even smaller. So small it can fit in a copper bowl, things like that. There's also the rainbow body of light, which was manifested by masters like Nyala Pema Doodle, where the whole body, nails and hair and everything, is just dissolves into light and disappears. So More details about the rainbow body can be found in the treatise Yeshe Lama. Hasten to attain liberation in this life. So hasten to attain liberation. Liberation is in the form of the rainbow body in this very life. The word hasten is an entreatment, an encouragement, an imperative, saying, do it, you must do this. Get on with this and attain liberation in this life.
Yeah, nga gembu lamo te yimpe te nyamsu longshi kaldin pu songeta nga gembu se ta dunjun mboji chadon dunjun mboji gonglo dewu phep de kejerewa nga gembu labo sa lapse kejere te kan te keje ta khela dama sena mindu rewa sena mindu cheji luju la jalu de ba chisho songeta dunjun mbage to nyamsu longshi kalsang pu sada ton da ta yegi kata thikche ta lu thugal gi nyamne chisho songre kalwa zangbu ge pu She Chogelgi Kulmuru Satratung Dudjom Doji Mepageo Sarva Mangalam Sole.
This is what I, this old man, have to say. So Haruka Dudjom Lingpa here is saying, this is what I, Dudjom Lingpa, this old man, evidently Dudjom Lingpa was kind of older in years when he gave this instruction. This is what I have to say. This is my hope for you, my request for you. I hope that you can apply yourself and attain liberation in the rainbow body, in this life, this very body. Put this into practice, my fortunate son. Put these instructions into practice, engage in the practices of Trekcha of primordial purity and Turgal of spontaneous presence.
Yang tiring kashi yang dulu lep mikir tenda yor, dangkong ma lep tenda yor, nanti lung di top goyo mare, di indu ngi di ndon shage, tena kira napa tamche ke di ke lung di top song tegang, tena ti di tena jele nye shang na yang digre, di indu kanga yang dangkong da tiring iga lep tena di chasang top yor, yang dangkong lep tiring ma lep na yang di top go mare, yang dangkong lep ache, dangkong ma lep ache tiring lep tegin tere yang mangpo yo sare, di indu di yang chö den go che nga che che de marta chö se gen go che nga chi chi mere ke wa mangbo la ya tene ti ge cham do ke na min ya du jang wa ti ndi kang la phabar do tengi tring de ma te lung de man de she ke kerang so tring yang dang gong ma le ba so la tring di cha song top de gi che ge te ngarang ge nen di lung so tene dunjul bo che thotong dunjul ba khorang lan ji tri shi do ji kun den shi ba re te ti ndi te kerang so tham je yang di ya tene lung da thi de wo che ge top bi ko chö de wo cha do re 인디 강땡인데네 마그 룽도 보지 뇌샤게 한단 당공 드링 이걸 랩되게는 그 자동 톱을 그 개점인도 양 당공 마용제 드링 랩되게는 한디 인고시 가지 차로 텐딩인데 인고도 마 룽지 뇌샤게데 캐나존데 리코드는 냐는데 그래 티 마르자 양 당산도 디나 왔다게 된다 줌 나왔다게 가시요 근데 저 땅에 서다 캐나존 노레지 연된 시기 펜토마도 티기 룽기 고쳐고 말해 티던 룽성인데 라만 듄데 Lama dunle shigu ten loma ten dam den tene long to kor ma da jang reng bo ching net nang la nyeng go den sara sel la shiu ko chu ma re ten du gang la kina na ba tham je tene ya bo sen ro nang sa chö gel la dam ba o tu sun sang ji de be ba kun sang do so ji do je kyong mo lam len de ke wo ke nge bro chö chi dub de na dal jur nye ge so la som don dang de ba Shigla Rambita Shiva Majipra Lotul Rambul Nakadung Servo Toma Vip Mela Tu Tampichu Tantebra Mise Melam Kavazam La Chachim Chura Dil Lonti Dubasamre La Yeshe Machit Setra Dosa Tantuba Nyamchina Kiu Rab Gichapa Yangogo Yu Meparo Tamdum Tuna Gyalse Yantoni Tawa Rimbuche Parme Gomna Nanjurin Shikpa Cherme Lodi Rang Kradu Naring Sin Choba Midam Midun Rangsa Sumba Chadang Yin Gang Dang Tu Titin Bebar Chikuru Nebari Trin Choji Chavi Samche Ne Chonyi Ngani Samba Yin Yimba Dundan Dengyurna Gang Tu Sum Gelbi Dongsub Yin Lama Tampi Gyunzini Aho Ne Gang Tu Ne Gang Duk Nawa Gyaye Ne Tu Namya Sheba Gasale Toksu Tite Shitul Choba Zang Li Chichi Payu giver te dambi ngamju tamba yin sem ye ne ma ju tu ta jela ngang to guna to din sem ye tong tang se nyok ta la ngo rang to te ba to din sem ngo ye Sangye ba la ngang to guna to din sem ye chu kurti nga dang nyam che ngo rang se je ba to din sem khor ndi o chu chen bo lo Terangotuna Totanya in Lundu de Gentilico per Minnes Vitaro Tarchuna Pangurja Lu to Sendiro Totopshik to Remunga Gambula Mote Impe to Nyam so Longical Zampo she Chukil Gikor Chatung Dunjum Doji Mepagio Serva Mangala Mayata Tirinkana Batam Gentru Dangong Jumachon Sola Tirin Chatong Topson Timogata Yitun Nimitila Malavina Tandantil Densha Long Chatong Topson Tikana Batam Topa Titina Tita was going in the Chawachi telling Yan and Digre. The Mashitine Tati Zoom Nang Latine Tatigan and the Coronso on Digit Chicats and Chichita, Yundenji Hakur Matoke, Martin the Lung Tobacco Chogomari, Chamne Lung Togana, to Lama Mopian or that, like Dudjom Chotung Dudjom Bigetine, Chugurin de Batan, the Lung Yotegan, the Lungshana, they take it in a lung de coach, Nigit in a Titikan Yena, the Maji Yundensham Bocajang Tigo Mare, they treat the go and the Tile and Tashana. Pentogomata, and the Dinning Martin Zoom now in a tea tops on lung tops on Tinder, Kuchugumari, Tati Michi Gunsim, which do Tati Gunsim, Lamna, young Tina to Zerdo Shagre, or the Indiana, Canavatam, young Tinder, young downs on Tinder, Gumju Lot, and the Totos, in the Sam Kinter, USA, the Inditi Canavatam, Lama Shantar, Karasun, Haku, Marcorans, and Nashinche, long top girls and a top gucci, one top gucci, and a top gucci. In the Tigoti, the Canavatam Jigi, Senniger, and Digit in a Titi Canavandi, Semba in a lung Lamachosala, lung top New Lamajosala Senni, Shuvain, then the ticket the opposite to this.
So, Rinpoche just gave the reading transmission for the entire text from beginning to end once more. There are some of you who are here today who weren't here yesterday, so you missed some of the reading transmission. So, that being the case, Rinpoche said, I just gave the reading transmission again from beginning to end. So any of you who were not here yesterday but have just come today, know that you've received the full transmission for the text, even though you didn't receive the full instructions, but the teachings have been recorded, so you can listen to the recordings, and you have the lung in its entirety. Those who came yesterday and received half of the lung yesterday but didn't come today, you can listen to the recording of the teachings today, but you will not receive the lung just through listening to a recording. That also goes for people listening to the teachings on Zoom. You certainly, by listening to the teachings on Zoom or listening to a recording, you can receive these instructions and improve your knowledge and so on. But please do not think that you have received the lung either by listening to the recording or by listening live, real time on Zoom. An oral transmission cannot be transmitted online over distance. In order for a transmission to take place, the student and teacher need to be actually in each other's presence together at the same time. That's how a transmission can take place. So those of you listening online and not receiving the lung, the transmission, you're receiving the instructions, yes, and you can learn something from that. If you want to receive the lung in the future, then you can approach any other teacher who's received these transmissions, the transmissions of Dudjom Lingpa's teachings, and request the lung for this teaching from them. In terms of how I received this transmission, I received it from Dudjom Lingpa's incarnation, Yeshe Doje, the late Dudjom Rinpoche. There are many reasons, I won't go into it now, but there are many reasons why why transmission cannot take place sort of online over distance. These days there seem to be lots of different ideas, perhaps misunderstandings about this. I don't know what other teachers say about this. Maybe other teachers say different things, that's fine. But what I'm saying about the teaching here today, that only the people who receive the lung in person right here today have received it in full. Everyone else will have to receive it from someone else later if they want to. That's all. Now let us dedicate the merit that we've accumulated through listening to and receiving this
Lama doji sembala tene te rangi gyosha chebayina dikpala yunde mete shana tagyeba dikbi yunde ins padrumbi sonre te tindegi chene te nyamdo kenaba yekya sonro chingin tene shakpa dutishin tongi ins.
So we'll dedicate the merit, and after that we'll recite the 100-syllable mantra for a while. We'll do this as a confession. From my side, a confession is the one who's taught this text. I may have made mistakes and errors. There may have been insufficiencies in my explanation. Also from your side, as the students listening to the teaching, there might have been things you've not understood or misunderstood, misinterpreted. Perhaps you didn't listen properly or genuinely. So all these mistakes that we've made from either of our side, we will confess with the 100-syllable mantra, meditating on Guru Vajrasattva. Just as Padre Rinpoche said, misdeeds have no good qualities. Their only saving grace is that they can be confessed, purified through confession.
Sonam de tamje zuba yin domne nyebe danam bamje jenge gana jemba wonda. Chubin zalen do ador jom jido dambo sangye gondo dan doje zemba doje de jenje bawo jembo do akeben gandala zekon yeje jenge. Andne magi ne namda yan dulang lo prashabe gondole mari gonzen kenan yamja kun da jenjen kelombo. Bandara sangwe dabo doje dandro be kusong to song samaya bumge damde nyamjang seklan galwa kan radon non shinge be dolo. Sado nyamba kyondo gerwe dende ne legin yesen dorje kan koyi gaye jeba dabo gyurgyurwe ndije de jang ya jeng sa. Hon de be gyalo yene doje je misume jang dong shakbo de gundo zombo e do ribelo. Dundra me banjo en londo om bandra sadu samaya manu balaya bandra sadu deno ba de dan de do memba sudan goya memba wa sabon goya memba wa anorado memba wa sarva siddhi me bare sarva karma sudame sadam shire yam koro hon ha 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 ho bangavan sarva tata gata mantra Ma samaya sadhu om badra sadhu samaya manu balaya badra sadhu deno ba de dan de do memba sutengaya memba wa subongaya memba wa anurado memba wa sarva siddhi me prayasa sarva karma sudame sadam shire yam kuro hon ha 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 ho banga sarva tatangata mantra memme manda vadra bhava ma samaya sadhu om bandra sadhu samaya manu balaya denamba tetande memba sudangaya memba wa subongaya memba wa anurado memba wa sarva siddhi me prayasa sarva karma sudha Siddham Shri Yam Kuro Hong Ha 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 Ho Bangavan Sarva Tatangata Mantra Mame Mansa Badra Bhava Ma Samaya Sadhu A Om Bandra Sadhu Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Sadhu Den Abha Dedan Dedro Memba Sudhaga Memba Va Subhankaya Memba Va Anurado Memba Va Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Sudhame Siddham Shri Yam Kuro Hong Ha Ha Ho One Sarvata Tangata Mandra Mame Manda Badra Bhava Ma Samaya Sadhua Hota Sundam Gentleman To Tuji Sirgon Chamber Dame Kurta Tomene Marin Sheda Sodra Jansam Sangagi Dundan Lava Danyamba Mission Fatri Samba Jogging Odo Om Bandra Sadhu Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Sadhu Dinoba Titan Dedo Member Kaya membawa hasubang kaya membawa anurado membawa sarva siddhi me prayata sarva karma susame sadam shri guru hong ha 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 ho bangavan sarva tata gata madharma me madhavadharva samaya sadhu om bandra sadhu samaya manu balaya bandra sadhu denna ba dedan dedo membawa Sudangaya membawa, subhokaya membawa, anurada membawa, sarva siddhi me pray. Asame siddham shri yam kuru hong ha 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 ho bangavan sarva tata gata madharma me mansa vadrava. Ma samaya sadhu om badra sadhu samaya manu balaya badra sadhu deno ba dedan dedan Sudankayo Membawa, Subokoyo Membawa, Amarado Membawa, Sarvasiti Meprayata, Sarvakarma Sudame, Tram Shireyam, Kuruhong Aho. Sanandra Mamemza Badra Bawama, Samaya Sadu, Damsing Yamshan Tamchikan, Shapikalwan Dijitu, Kamsum Kurvat. Kusum londo jancho, lama idam lado gonzo, dandre zambi dibe gewa, dan dusum sadan yebe gewa, nam dum de lame jancho, jembarongo, demne jancho, nyambo, jigi, parisan, losalanga jir. Ninji sheshan lama lagi, dempal den durje, delangi nejo, wangi missing damsi dambra de, rimni lamgi into darjende, kawa me parundin, kawanju, ngojo namni dele. Chinang Jintur Devan Kolozo, Tawa Damje, Juranga Gata, Simki Kiwari, Demajin, the Gentiner Meperangon Jurjan, Yamjato Dema Bani, Soda, China, Sama, Yirmet, Tansha Randur Gonzalo, and Son Tontu Jing, Yamjo, Tele, Jambo, Kudan, Yangamzo, Tantu Jambo, Ponglanza, Chapter Jambo, Redo, the Badu, Toba, Jimbo, Chugo, Josu, Gibasum, Kishan, Loving, Laji, Jintur Devan, Chillian Namji Lungi, Debai, Munda Mebin, Donam, the Raja, Shido, Kolo, London, Yankanto, Nam Gibu, Yankan, Chuyon, Some Party. Ila Mamba Tatan, Doji, Yawa, Darjin, Yawa, Tinsin Namki, Shepi, Tongun to Malik, Gungakin. Punzo Tata, Ishin, Joker, Kanto, Givi, Yawa, Tamji, Duntori, and then the Dentamber, Yamata, Dujan, Dragon, Sujan, the Veron, Ayavra, Lama, Tambangi, Jing, and Dansan Dojala. Shoton and Nyingpo, the city, Ganton, Josaba, and Bishop, and Jin, like Yang, Varajola, Pension, Jory. Samje, Sangye, Topara, show, the Shedpa, Gunje, to get on the Vamalum, Kinson, Solame, and Rogenda, and Dragon, the Blanket, the Shedpa, Gunje, to get on the Vamalum, Kinson. Tindawa, Tindragon, and the Hero, the Shedpa, Gunje, to get on the Vamalum, Kinson, New Solame, Tendra Konan Dazon Girva show and Jambal Bow, Dragon Badan Kundu Sambo down the Gente, the Takunji, Jesu, Dow, Jingawan, the Tatam Jera, Dungo, Shikvijawa, and Chikingo, Kalan Shotunga, what the Dagi give it. Sambu Shira Orgyen Molum Javan, the Dachok, Zuta and the Wakala, Vijay Kundu Sambogi. Yazon Jinamali, don't worry, Joe, and get the Dutais and Jenama Vision, Dokosum, when you dip a man to do some Jim. Some chicken is a la chimber, show, consumed to Jim, mention it in Lama, chicken to Dumala. The Tatam Jedag into a show, Dumbanji then comes to Shamadan Temban Vision to Savat and Tempanush. Temba during Nivita, she show, Pemir Lunga, watching it in pushing that Dudjom and Kangas of the Temba. Minusha Dante and Jurje, and you do take with them, but then show them Mandas to give you the Kyapje Tulku and Kyapje Tulku with them, Besam Kanya, show, Tetra, Dubang, go and show, and get them, but don't get the chances and Badam, Jigging, love and Song, Bengal. Shaking number thousand, some give me keep it, then bit of it, remember, Tetation, the pressure, Nanda, Risum, Langa, Chuking, Ankudan, Yeshe, Sabzan, Najre, Jimbe. Irme doge dele roje yo ma bandar guru Pema se o ma Namdrobe tabe cheba sheso zanga chowa chebege nyeche male shambranji chocho takbe chema chaje la jeye randa be dashe tima menzobe chancho semge
Yeshe chanchu zembala ndamba samje lumbala tseran trawe lenam gen Dudjom Chodpa
sa ji beje jo she me to tra ri ra lin she nyen de jem ba le sangye Khawa yen ro ganam da shen la je bra jo dang go ro re na men da la bu za men ga samudra sabarat samaye a go men jo ro do je dan la sho so men ga sa ya da vur so do so tho me ya ga da chambur yo so de jan dor jan over yo so so de be me nyen jen go le yan je ge na ve me do do be yeshe Orgyen che je chang chen bar do nyen ge be mo ron ge zan som ye den be ya jen re de zang gong be de ju chun be ken de ne be shen ben den do nye be ma rin za ya la zo wan Kange san san dor je rang shen ne yo vi che le yon son de me ye nan dor je den ye den ben yal den